Good morning. And good morning. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Orioles fans, Baltimore area Chick-fil-A restaurants are hosting a contest for fans to win free Chick-fil-A for a year. To enter, follow at Orioles. Yes, sir. Hang on, we got to bring Stan.
Did you say a year?
For a year. For a year. Apparently, I'm not eligible, which is a big problem.
Am I?
I gotta look into that. I don't know the answer. In order to answer, follow at Orioles on Instagram. Take a photo with the life-size Chick-fil-A cow bobblehead in the kids' corner at Oriole Park, so where all the playground is over that way. You know that little area down the right field line. And post your own Instagram feed using hashtag cow bobblehead sweepstakes. That's cow, not cow. Cow. Like the Chick-fil-A cow. Cow bobblehead sweepstakes. You could be one of 12 lucky fans to win free Chick-fil-A for 1 year. The contest ends on August 27th, so don't forget to visit the Kids Corner at Oriole Park to take a photo with the Chick-fil-A cow bobblehead. For rules, visit Orioles.com/chick-fil-a. Chick-fil-A, but with the dashes the way that they spell it in the company's name. Cool? Capiche. Appreciate it. Good morning, Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. That's Griffin, and joining us here in studio this morning is the Chief Grand Poobah. It's been some time since we've seen our friend Stan the Fan Charles back in studio with us. It's great to see you, my friend. How you feeling, first of all?
Good to see you. Recovered.
I like that.
Recovered nicely, but now these allergies have kicked back in.
Stan, I am telling you, the worst allergy season of my life, to the point where I tested multiple times last week because I said, this can't just, like, I got to the point where I said, this can't just be allergies any longer.
Right.
It's, I can't speak without straining. I can't, and I said, I got to test. Test negative. What? A couple days later, I'm still dealing with it, where I'm choking, where I'm, like, and I'm talking to my buddy Booker Corrigan because I did I was the announcer for the Baltimore 10-miler to help him out.
Right.
And I said on Friday, I'm like, Booker, my voice is not great.
Right.
Like, it is. I'm sucking down 30 lozenges a day trying to get through this. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And he said, brother, I'm feeling the exact same way. The exact same.
I was just talking to Josh last night, about 11:30 last night. We were texting. And he says his allergies are worst ever.
I've never experienced.
And I said, what could be causing that? And I said, I'll bet it boils down to something with global warming.
It might very well. I did an Alex Jones impression on the radio show this past Sunday. We started talking about it, and I was like, the government has weaponized the pollen against us. Turned all the frogs gay. Now they're weaponizing the pollen. It's the fascists and the globalists. Like, I was doing that whole bit the other day because I was trying to play on the voice. Great to see you, though. We had planned this before the news of yesterday unfolded. Ironically,
what news?
Yeah, right. What news? Later on in the show, you're going to hear an interview that we did with Jim Bowden that we had to record yesterday, just to peel the curtain back. And Stan kind of references in the interview that there might be some trouble at one point.
But I had no idea that it was going to represent itself in this way.
Right, yeah. But it's just you're going to hear Stan phrase a question or a response during the course of that interview that's going to make you say, oh, there's been an issue here for a little while. There's been a problem. And Jim Bowden also said, yeah, I've kind of heard some of the same things. So just an interesting part. We'll get to that later on.
Yep.
In a few minutes, we will talk Sam Dykstra from MLB.com, MLB Pipeline. He's part of their team now. And we'll talk to him about prospects and, maybe some thoughts on Grayson Rodriguez.
Now, the Bowden interview was ostensibly, though, about the Orioles being the number one, having the number one pick.
It was to be our weekly draft segment this week. And then just because it's Jim Bowden, we do a MLB draft segment every week leading up to the draft. And then because it was Jim Bowden, uniquely, I said, hey, I'd like to also cover some other ground with him and talk about, you and I talked about Trey Mancini and Anthony Santander during One More Thing this week, and I said, let's put that to him. Let's talk to him about a couple other things where we can get not only his perspective as an analyst, but obviously from his many years as a general manager. So we covered a lot of ground in that conversation. It was really, really quite a very good conversation, but we don't, again, I'll warn you, it doesn't directly cover the news of the lawsuit. because that came out after we had taped that interview. So we're still going to air it. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. We're still going to put that out later on in the program. Stan, your gut reaction when this came across last night, immediately what jumped out to you?
Well, two things. Number one, it wasn't shocking. It really wasn't. I did not know the depths to which John and Lewis's relationship had fallen, because the last time we've seen Lewis was the day that
the
Mike
Elias press
was
conference.
hiring,
Yeah.
and there was an assumption that day that Lewis was good with everything that was going on. There was a sort of a schism in the hierarchy of the Angelos family that somebody had to, when Peter became incapacitated, which I was amazed that the Baltimore Banner, nobody has mentioned anything about A, Peter collapsing, B, when exactly they knew the day it happened.
Apparently, they referenced it in the lawsuit. In the
Okay.
lawsuit, it was
That's a good point.
referenced.
That's a
And
good
so
point.
that's Justin Fenton, Tim Prudenti, who wrote about the lawsuit. When they got access to the lawsuit,
Right.
that information was in there.
Okay. Well, that was pretty amazing stuff to me. So that was kind of the newsworthy part to me was that. I have not read anything about the lawsuit last night. My attention was watching the House committee thing last night. So that took precedent over the Angelos
No, you're
family.
saying that an insurrection, an attempt to take down our entire democracy is maybe slightly more important than a baseball team? I don't know, Stan.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought
didn't
you were a
even-
baseball guy.
I didn't even turn the Oriole game on until the ninth inning. But anyway, it wasn't shocking to me, and the overriding thing I felt was sadness.
Yeah.
Stan,
I would back up that there's a few things that jumped out at me, and I ended up going back and forth with a bunch of people last night because of individual things that really hopped out at me within the lawsuit itself. I thought it was breathless. So if you were paying more attention to the hearings, then
I still have not read.
you probably missed some of the reaction to it.
Yeah.
As appears to have been purposeful from Lou Angelos's camp.
Right.
The thing that got everybody's attention and created the most explosive response was John's threatening to move the team to Tennessee.
Right.
Which is not, there's no actual truth to that.
Right.
It's like you are a Mark, you're a Rube. They did that. His team purposefully put that line in there. And as Justin and Tim said in their story, if you read the entire thing, there's absolutely nothing else in the lawsuit that suggests there's any truth to it other than essentially his camp trying to prey on the fears of Orioles fans that already exist
To get them to side
to
with
curry favor towards Lou by throwing in this line. Well, if he wishes, and I'll try to pull up.
I thought that was the two things that struck me that were really incredibly sad were Lewis's camp bringing that up as some reason that some wrong was done here, that holding that threat of moving the team, and the other thing was mentioning somehow in the lawsuit that his dad continually badgered John about never getting his law degree.
Yeah, I mean, that seems...
I mean, that was very... I thought both of those were rather small-minded things.
So let me pull out these quotes, just to be fair. The quote from the lawsuit, quote, John intends to maintain absolute control over the Orioles, to manage, to sell, or if he chooses, to move to Tennessee, where he has a home and where his wife's career is headquartered, without having to answer to anyone. So that's bombastic. That is absolutely explosive. That gets everyone's attention immediately. If we let this son of a bitch run the team, then he's going to move the team to Nashville. We got to do something about this. Except there's nothing else in the lawsuit that suggests that there's
a danger of that happening.
Any thought of that being real. There is the story that is presented.
In fact, John has negotiated in good faith with the Maryland Stadium
Correct.
Authority to the deal that is in place now, right? That the Ravens and the Orioles are going to have $1.2 billion over the next 10 years.
Although what was that House bill? I can't even remember what the number was. But although we still have not seen a negotiated lease, right?
Right.
And that's still, and so it prays to Orioles fans' fears that until the lease is in place, there is this risk. They also presented a story that there was a potential for a sale in 2020 that they allege John scuttled. John scuttled, and they don't say who it was. We don't know. There have been some rumors over the years about potential interested parties, one particularly wealthy family in this area that maybe would be interested in owning the Orioles. I don't know if they don't say that that's who it was. But as the story goes on, and ultimately, both Tim and Justin wrote the story, so I don't know who wrote this actual line. Near the end of the story, they say, while the lawsuit speculates that John Angelos might want to move the team, there are no allegations that he took any such steps. John Angelos, of course, has said the team would not be moving. They reference as long as
Fort McHenry is here.
Is watching over the harbor. So to me, if you are Lou Angelos' lawyer, I can't be mad at you. You have a job to do. Your job is to make this as explosive and to try to curry as much favor and all of those things. So put out any explosive detail you could possibly put out. The rest of us have a responsibility to use at least the smallest amount of scrutiny as we discuss it. And sharing out the thought that, they're at risk of moving to Tennessee or this is further evidence or something along those lines is shameless. It's breathless. Really is, there is absolutely nothing there. Nothing that suggests as such.
That is the equivalent to the big lie in this particular instance.
If there's some sort of evidence of that, then it needs to be presented. We have some amount of
gun. Yeah.
Right. We have an amount of proof, or we can tell you that John is interested in that. That's not referenced. It's thrown in there for the express purpose of your reaction. Your reaction is why they throw that line in there. The other part that I brought up is that they, for whatever bizarre reason, they highlight Brady Anderson. The suit says a top priority of Angelos' wife, Georgia, 80, has been to sell the team, and an advisor went about trying to negotiate a sale in 2020. Louis Angelos said John Angelos nixed the deal. We referenced that. It also claims that John Angelos forced out former star center fielder and Orioles Hall of Famer Brady Anderson from his front office role because he, quote, presented a threat, unquote. For what it's worth, let's just say, for the hell of it, Stan, let's just say that's true. Let's say that's the reason why John Angelos had Brady Anderson removed from his post. You know what anyone with a brain would say in response?
Good.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
It's such a bizarre thing to highlight in a lawsuit, as if what I said immediately was, this is the thing that presents the best argument for why John should be running the team. Is because he was the one that understood this is insane. We're letting a guy have this unbelievable role where he answers to no one, where he's both part of the front office and for whatever reason a spy in the clubhouse. He got rid of...
Well, and he was also had something to do with upgrading the nutrition.
Right, that's right. He was doing that too. He got rid of the pitching coach regime that had such unbelievable success with Buck Showalter and Dave Wallace and Dom Cheedy. The group of guys that were getting the most bang for their buck from a group of pitchers that, frankly, there was no business getting that much bang for your buck from. And that's the guy you want us to be mad about that he got rid of? That's the guy?
I'll just tell you an insight without sharing the name. I was very fond of a potential candidate for the team president, general manager role.
Okay.
And I spoke to this person.
This is post Dan Duquette or before? This is when Duquette got...
This is before Duquette had been let go. It was sort of reading the tea leaves.
Or
saying if this job,
we remember Duquette wanted to be in Toronto. And
no, actually, this had more to do with the thought that they weren't going to retain Dan.
Okay.
I was, first of all, I will say that I was in Dan's camp.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought he deserved a real shot at running this team the way that Mike has had at running this team. But when that became apparent it wasn't going to happen, I thought there was somebody that John should talk to. And I spoke to this person. I said, look, I'm not best friends with John Angelos, but I think when we talk baseball, He respects my knowledge a little bit. Would you like your name thrown in? He goes, well, let me just tell you something. First thing I'm going to do, if I would get a meeting, is ask him, what the hell does Brady Anderson do for this team? He goes, what exactly does he do, Stan? And I said, I can't really tell you.
No, you can't.
There's no role.
His role was unjustifiable. You could not justify the role that Brady Anderson had with a major league team.
Yeah.
And that's on the record. That's not something somebody heard. That's on the record. Rosenthal wrote the story 5 years ago. You can go back and read it. It was unjustifiable. We all had heard weird things about Brady Anderson, but none of us had really put it on the record that, like, hey, there's a problem here. And I don't personally dislike Brady Anderson. He's certainly not a beloved former player because of, the steroid thing. Like, he's a guy that we all kind of enjoyed watching, and we enjoyed the 50 home run season. But ultimately, we also kind of know what happened there, and so it's more like we like Brady Anderson, the player, but he's not such a. But this is not. They highlighted in this lawsuit as if it was like him firing Cal Ripken or firing Brooks Robinson, firing Brady Anderson. There was no reaction to it. There was no, oh, this is a huge problem for the Orioles. It was the exact opposite, which is, if you're going to hire a general manager, you should make sure that guy unilaterally gets to run the team and doesn't have to answer to some other weird interloper. So that part of this is...
That's a good expression.
Like,
Brady Anderson. Weird.
That's what he was.
Yes.
Like, the players are all like, is he supposed to be one of us? He works for the owners. He's spying on us and reporting.
He's in here and changing,
Right. Like, he's acting like he plays for the team still, but yet he's working for the owner. Like, and there's supposed to be sanctity to the clubhouse. That like what shared in the clubhouse is between us and doesn't go back to the bosses. And it made players openly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There was no justification for this role, this autonomy that Brady Anderson had been given within this organization, which, again, doesn't mean that John Angelos has done everything right at every turn. But this is not the example of something that would make anyone say, oh, God, we can't let that guy run the team. He fired Brady Anderson. It's the exact opposite of that.
I will tell you the one baseball moves that Brady, when I say one baseball moves, remember that spring training where out of the clear blue, like within 2 days, they signed Andrew Kashner
and
then Alex Cobb to the long-term 4-year contract.
And in fairness, we were all excited about those signings. Yep.
But it turned out that those two, they were very low-hanging fruit for Brady. It was mid-March. Both of them were still free agents. And they just happened to be represented by the agency that represented Brady Anderson.
How interesting.
Yeah.
How interesting.
And that doesn't make it evil.
No.
But it makes it like almost like sort of incestuous.
Yes.
That he's picking players that were still free agents that he had some type of relationship with through the agency.
And then to boot, neither one of them really worked out as Orioles pitchers, right?
Yeah.
Like on top of everything else, neither one of them really succeeded as Orioles pitchers. I'm not here to tell you that I know the answer to the John Angelos, Lou Angelos debate, because I sure as hell do not. That is a far bigger problem for a family and for a franchise. What I know is there is nothing that's been presented so far that makes me say, God, we need to side with Lou Angelos on this one. There's nothing so far that makes me say I'm in his camp. Now, I'm not telling you that I'm in anybody's camp, because the camp that I'm in is what's best for the Orioles. And I think the answer that most people are going to say is for them to not have anything to do with the Angelos family drama. The best thing.
I will tell you, not that I'm John's a friend of mine over the years, so I'm not going to recuse myself because I'm not in a position to sway that many hearts and minds. I will tell you that the one area that Lewis may have some ground on is what Peter's wishes
what his
were.
intent was, right?
And he's maintaining that Peter wanted the two brothers to run this team together. I don't know how possible that was. or whether it could ever happen. But that's the one area that Lewis may be able to prove somehow that, hey, Dad really, his wishes were that we run this together.
It's going to, again, be difficult in the court of public opinion to sway people that, hey, we should do things the way that Peter wanted it to be done, because, of course, the court of public opinion would say, no, we shouldn't. That was the problem with the Orioles for a very long time.
The difference is, and I know we've got to guess, but the difference is that this will not be decided
in the court of public opinion.
It'll be decided upon
if it ends up going to a jury trial. Correct. Exactly right. All right, we will come back to it, I promise. It's not we know it's the story today, and we will get to it, and I'll get to some of your responses that have already come in. Stan's going to be with us all morning. Today's show also brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. 61 self-service kiosks in the FanDuel Sportsbook. Tonight, Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Tomorrow, UFC 275. 2 huge events this weekend. If you want to be there, there are going to be big crowds for both events. So email events@sportssocialmd.com right now. Events@sportssocialmd.com, and you can reserve your table, reserve your reclining chairs, whatever it is that your group is looking for, because if you just show up tonight, it's possible that it ends up being a standing room type of crowd in the FanDuel Sportsbook or tomorrow night, particularly for the fights, because, who wants to pay to get the pay-per-view at home? They want to come out to the FanDuel Sportsbook and watch the fights there. So Game 4 tonight.
Save that money so you can
bet it on Yuri Prohaska. Yeah. Exactly right, 100%. So, yes, email events@sportssocialmd.com to hang out at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland.
There's no chance that there will be a fight between John and Lou. Tonight.
I don't think. No. That definitely will not be happening. I don't think they'll be taking bets on that either in the FanDuel Sportsbook. Let's get to some actual baseball conversation. Our next guest is now part of the MILB.com team, the MLB Pipeline team. And he was very helpful with their most recent Top 100 Prospects update just a couple of weeks back. Joining us now, he is Mr. Sam Dykstra. He's with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Sam, it's Glenn and Stan the Fan Charles here in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Obviously, we apologize. Kind of an awkward day that you ran into as the Orioles, the lawsuit between the owners of the teams. So we apologize that we're getting a little carried away there. I want to start with Grayson, right? Because he was your guy's top pitching prospect in baseball. How does this impact the way you all will look? Do you need to see Grayson come back, respond to the injury? When you guys do another update, how will it be impacted by this injury?
I mean, that's a fascinating question, and one we're going to have to wrestle with ourselves. I think the encouraging thing is that it's not a shoulder injury. It's not an elbow injury. It's nothing really mechanical. A lat, it's kind of, it's a freak injury, but I don't expect it to affect his mechanics at some point. I would love to see him come back at some point in some fashion. Speaking selfishly as somebody who covers the Arizona Fall League, I think that kind of could be perfect for him, just to show a little bit of stuff, a little bit of recovery, and get him into a competitive environment before the season's up. The Orioles might decide, hey, it's not worth it. Like they've said recently, we're really geared towards getting him into the opening day rotation in 2023. Having him pitch in the AFL might not help in that regard. So we'll see how it's going to go. I think, we may not have him at number 3 overall, because there's every chance that guys are going to pass him. But given what he showed before the injury, it was 4+ pitches. It was really good control. It was basically a major league ready arm, probably 2 starts before the injury even happened. He's certainly going to be in the top 10 conversation all over again. This injury, as bad as it is, I don't think will be a major setback in terms of rankings. Maybe a little bit of one, just because other guys will have so much more momentum going into next year, and it's going to hurt him the lost innings. But in terms of the nature of the injury, I don't think it's going to set him back that much in terms of how we view him, because he's still only 22 years old. He's turning 23 in November. He'll still be kind of young for the AAA level going into 2023.
Sam, I just wanted to. I'm Stan. Just wanted to jump on the other pitchers. How far below Grayson? I'm not saying numerically, but DL Hall. What level is he below Grayson Rodriguez as a real prospect? And my second part of that question is, there's been some thought here, because of injury problems, that, boy, the club ought to be proactively turning him into like the next Josh Hader. Where do you fall in those two areas?
Yeah, so I think with DL Hall, the reason why, and I know you said not numerically, but just to give your listeners an idea of how far we have these two guys ranked. Right now, we have Grayson Rodriguez number 3 overall. We have DL Hall number 79.
Okay.
Now, DL Hall is trending upwards for sure. He is pitching.
Yeah.
He is healthy. He is effective. I just wrote him up the other day, but he has such a wide difference in potential outcomes. You mentioned making him a Josh Hader. I mean, that's difficult to do. There's only one Josh Hader in the world right now.
Yep.
But he certainly could be an effective reliever. The fastball is already touching triple digits. He's got 2 good breaking balls and a really solid changeup. That would work in shorter stints. And because of his injury problems in the past, including elbow issues last year, maybe it's best to just move him into a relief role. I still believe in him as a starter. I think he could be a number 3 type, maybe even a number 2 type, given the quality of pitches. The command has been an issue in the past. That kind of dings him a little bit. And again, we have not seen him pitch more than 94 1/3 innings in a single season. So trying to project him to be a starter who can throw 200 innings in a season is kind of difficult at this stage. I think there's still the potential for that to happen. If I'm the Orioles, I'm pushing off that reliever conversation until next year at the earliest, just because I want to get as much value out of DL Hall as I possibly can. Getting him to throw 5-6 innings every 5th day is how you're going to do that. And like I said, the stuff is there for that to happen.
It's just a little reminiscent to me of when the Orioles acquired Dylan Tate from the Yankees. He was a starting prospect at the time, although his history in college was as a relief pitcher. But I looked at the innings pitched, and Dylan Tate, when the Orioles acquired him like 3-4 years ago, was already 24 years old, I believe, and he had not pitched more than like 70 innings in any season. So it struck me as odd, and I was saying they ought to move him back to the bullpen, and it just looks that way to me with Hall.
Yeah, I think the difference is Dylan Tate, when he was acquired by the Orioles, he had an aura around him as a relatively high pick.
Yep.
Like you were talking about, previous organizations had transferred him from the bullpen to a starting role, hoping that the stuff could stick, and it didn't. In the way that DL Hall's stuff does stay.
Yeah.
He's still throwing upper 90s deeper into outings. The slider maintains velocity. The curveball still looks really good late. So that's kind of the difference for me, is that Dylan Tate, there was the hope that he could transition into a starter, whereas DL Hall, he looks like a starter right now. He just needs to be on the mound consistently to show that.
Gotcha.
And the stuff is certainly there, though.
Yeah, and you can certainly argue the Orioles need him to be a starter, given what it is they have. Sam Dykstra is with us, MILB.com and MLB Pipeline. We're talking about the top prospects. Sam, obviously, in your guys' most recent update, Adley Rutschman had not been at the major league level long enough to have graduated from the list, so he's still number 1 on the list. I'm asking the question knowing the answer, but I just want you to say it anyway. I'm guessing you're not overly reacting to his slow start to his major league career, correct?
Yeah, very much not reacting in any way. And it's funny because going into his debut, I actually talked to him down in Norfolk for a brief time, and I brought up, hey, you know who the other top prospects in the game are right now, Bobby Witt Jr., Julio Rodriguez. Those guys got off to slow starts. Is that something you're worried about? And he's like, no, I don't. I'm not. I'm only worried about where I am right now. And it's a similar story for Adley Rutschman right now. I think the biggest jump in baseball, it shouldn't be a surprise, but is going from the AAA level to the major league level. And we saw those early struggles with Witt and Rodriguez. Now those guys are looking stronger by the day. I fully believe Adley Rutschman's going to do the same thing. One of the best things about him is he's a student of the game. He's constantly learning. He's picking up new things. I'm sure the more he learns about how major league pitchers are attacking him, he has every capability of adjusting to that and becoming, the above average hitter we all believe him to be.
I mean, I want to make it very clear. I am not panicked about Adley Rutschman.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just asking the question. That's all.
Hey, one player that's a total mystery to us is Heston Kjerstad. What do you know about him and this comeback from his multiple situations?
I didn't quite catch the name. Could you say
Heston Kjerstad?
Heston Kjerstad.
Oh, Kjerstad. As of right now.
Oh, remember him,
playing.
the number one pick.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest problem for us is it's what happened after COVID was really unfortunate. Battling back from myocarditis, there was hope that he could play at some point this year. Seems like he was on track. That's not happened so far.
Yeah.
It's a really unfortunate. There's obviously no way anybody could have predicted who's going to get myocarditis,
Yeah.
and it's a scary thing for an athlete. Yeah. It's a scary thing for anybody. But somebody who is going to constantly be in kind of high pressure situations, you want your heart to be in the right place.
Yeah.
As of right now, I haven't heard any news of him potentially coming back anytime majorly soon.
Yeah.
I haven't checked in on that in a little while. When he debuts, it'll be a huge deal. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Just to see him getting back. And
yeah.
Getting back
the issue is somehow some kind of a glute muscle or a hamstring. He's got some kind of leg buttock muscle issue. That's what's kept him out of playing this year.
And for the record, I know he was taking batting practice at Delmarva this week, so there's some hope that he'll be ready to get some game action. But yes, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Just two names, and Stan and I talked a little bit about them this week. One being, how high are you on Gunnar Henderson at this point? I know you guys have moved him into your top 50 of prospects. I still don't know for sure if he's a shortstop. I also don't know for sure that it matters because I think the point is he can play somewhere, and the reality is the bat's gonna play, correct?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, he's one of those players coming into the year where I thought he was probably going to be a better fit as a third baseman. They've played him more and more. It feels like at third base, he's played 2 or 3 games so far with Norfolk at third base. Basically just because of his size, his arm is really good. It'll certainly play at third. He's listed at 6'2", 210 pounds. But like you said, the bat has been as exciting as basically anybody in minor league baseball this season. What he was doing at Bowie, I think, was really special. Hitting above 300, showing some power, walking more than he struck out, which is a major deal for somebody who struck out 143 times last year. That's not easy to do, to just turn that switch of I'm going to understand the zone better, especially going to AA like he is at just 20 years old. When he moved to AAA, he was the youngest position player there and then homered. So he doesn't seem daunted by the transition there. And we'll see how AAA pitching is going to transition to him and adjust to him. But, in our conversations about where we move guys in the top 100, he has as much helium as anybody. And I think even if he does move to third base, which is not as premium a position as shortstop, he's going to be good defensively there. And the bat is playing especially well from the left side, and he's going to provide more than enough value to be a really good third baseman as well.
And I saw you got to see Colton Cowser this week.
I did. Yes, I live here in Brooklyn. I was at the Cyclones game last night. They were playing the Aberdeen Ironbirds, so I got to see him and Kobe Mayo, which was pretty special. I know Cowser's off to a bit of a difficult start. He's striking out a lot more than many of us expected this year at High A. But watching his at-bats last night, it was solid contact. It was line drives. It was hitting the ball to the gaps. Brooklyn is a really difficult place to show off power because it's right on Coney Island, right next to the beach, the wind blowing off the water. It's difficult to drive the ball to right field for a left-handed batter like him. So he kind of took advantage and was shooting for the gaps and got 2 doubles, went 3 for 3 with a walk, showed a good approach late. I know it's just one look, but based off what I saw last night, I think he's about to go on a run. I think he's still comfortably a top 100 prospect, and he could have a plus to maybe even a plus hit tool when it's all said and done.
About 5 weeks ago, Sam, I went out to see Rutschman the second night of his rehab at Aberdeen. And I had heard about Kobe Mayo, that he was some kind of hotshot prospect, and somebody mentioned to me the night before he had hit 2 home runs. So I was out there with our editor at Press Box, and he came up the third time. He had struck out and grounded out, and he hit the ball hard when he grounded out, but he was facing the same pitcher. And I turned to my editor and I said, Luke, this is the third time he's facing this guy. He ought to be able to pick one out. And I hear this sound, and I turn my head back, and he had launched one like I remember Mark McGwire's type of home runs. And then he hit one the next night, I heard. How good do you think he can be?
Yeah, I think he can be really good. I mean, you mentioned how solid of a contact he has. He's 6'5", 215 pounds. Like,
Yeah.
he has the size to really produce some good exit velocities, and that's why we were pretty high on him coming into the year, projecting him for plus power. It's all going to come down to, as won't be a surprise for anybody of that size, like how much contact is he going to make? What's going to happen when he is challenged more at the upper levels? He's striking out right now roughly a quarter of the time at high A. That's only going to get worse at double A and triple A unless he makes an adjustment.
Okay.
But the power is really good. The arm is tremendous at third base. He actually reminded me a little bit looking at him last night of, and I don't know how many of your listeners will know this name, but Brett Beatty, who is a third base prospect who we're very high on from the New York Mets system. Kind of similar size, really big guys who play into their power. Beatty's left-handed hitting, Mayo's right-handed hitting. But it's special pop. When you talk about right-handed batters now in Baltimore, I guess you kind of have to question how much is that power going to play with the fence move back in left field at Camden Yards. But still, he has enough to hit it out of the park anywhere. It's just, is he going to limit those strikeouts and be able to cover the plate enough? But offensively, defensively, there's a lot to like there.
Sam Dykstra, before we let you go, I know you're not the draft guy for MLB.com, but have you done any work on these guys at all? Only in the context of, like, if the Orioles were to take Drew Jones #1 overall, do you have any idea, like, where you would think he would line up in your rankings when he makes his debut, if he's the #1 pick? Do you have any thought for that?
Yeah, well, that's so I did get to see Drew Jones a little bit last year in the PDP League. Obviously, a lot has changed for him since then. I think when I saw the PDP League, Elijah Green was the big name. Termarr Johnson was a big name. Drew Jones, obviously a big name because of who his father is, but he's done a lot since then. You would probably put him right in that Rodriguez range, I think, right now.
Wow.
Just because of how gifted of a runner he is, how gifted of a center fielder he is. Obviously, Gunnar Henderson, like I said earlier, has as much helium as anybody in his system, and maybe you give him an advantage for already performing at the upper levels. But if he is moving to third base, that's not a premium position. Drew Jones is a lockdown center fielder. The bat's going to play. The speed is going to play. It's a true five-tool talent. The only thing that's different between him and Grayson Rodriguez is, the ceiling's about the same maybe, but it's just minor league experience. But Drew Jones, when he enters pro ball, is going to become one of the best outfield prospects in all of baseball immediately. And I would put him probably right now at the #3 spot.
Wow.
But you could even debate him versus Grayson Rodriguez, especially coming off that injury.
That's pretty remarkable. All right, Sam Dykstra, what can we plug for you, man? What should people be checking out right now? Social media, the whole deal.
Yeah, so, well, this will be of interest. We were talking about DL Hall before. We're starting a new series called the Pipeline Pitching Lab. So I broke down a DL Hall start just this week. That's now up on MLB.com.
Awesome.
You can also follow it on, or find it on Orioles.com. But, talk to DL Hall in Norfolk about all 4 of his pitches, what works best, what he likes best, how things have developed over the years, especially coming off the injury. So be sure to check that out. And, just follow all of our stuff online at MLB.com/pipeline.
At Sam Dykstra, MILB is how you follow him on Twitter. Sam, really appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Sam Dykstra, MLB.com, MLB Pipeline, MILB.com. That's where you find this stuff. That's, by the way, I mean, saying that immediately a guy taken with the #1 pick could be a top 5 prospect in all of baseball is a pretty dramatic statement. That, like, on the moment he shows up, having done nothing, he's a top 5 prospect. This only goes, I don't know if we're going to talk more about this with Jim Bowden later, Stan, but I struggle because the Orioles have not done, in the Mike Elias era, they have not taken a high school anything with their first pick. So we've heard rumors about them already being interested in cutting deals, and who else? Jacob Berry's name has been in the mix a couple times, but other people have said, no, I don't think it's Berry that they're looking to cut a deal with. They did bring in, we know they've already brought in a few of these high school guys for workouts. The question that I always come back to, it appears as though they believe there's inequity in that we can maybe find a Kobe Mayo by being willing to do some of these things. That's what they did with Heston Kjerstad, right?
Yep.
And they had no idea what was going to come with Heston Kjerstad, so it doesn't look good right now, but that's not
That's a fluke.
Correct. It's not because there was a scouting problem necessarily. Maybe there would have been, but we don't know there's any issue with the scouting. It's just, unfortunately, awful things happen. But their argument was, by doing that, we were able to get Kobe Mayo. And if we hadn't done that, we hadn't gotten Kobe Mayo. So in a world where Heston Kjerstad is progressing and looks like a viable baseball player, and you have Kobe Mayo, their argument is this is why it was worth doing. Right. But I struggle with that because, okay, but if the player you're passing up on in the process is so good that we're going to be thinking about it for years to come, that you decided not to take that player, getting an extra good player out of it might not make up for that to me.
Was Kjerstad the year of the pandemic?
Yes, it was the year of the shortened
draft. So that was
draft.
the other guy that they bid over slot was Carter Baumler.
The pitcher.
Who's unfortunately had Tommy John surgery.
Yep.
But he's on his way back. He's ranked on this one. Is this the MLB.com prospects Orioles? He's ranked 28th. But he was a very highly thought of guy that the Orioles bought out of going to college.
And for what it's worth, the guy that everybody was hot and bothered about in 2020, the guy that you said you can't pass on, was Austin Martin, who the Blue Jays moved on from fairly quickly. I think we were all stunned by how quickly that they...
Well, they did trade him for Jose Berrios.
Understood, right? But, like, if this is that type of rock star...
Right.
There's nothing I'm moving that guy for. I'm not... If he really is that guy, I'm not moving him for anyone, right? Because I'm not giving up on that. That's a lot.
It's just, remember one thing about the Blue Jays. They had invested a huge amount of money in George Springer, and they had Bo Bichette at shortstop.
Yep.
So he's a little redundant, whereas the pitching is awfully hard to find.
Well, what I would say is Austin Martin's also been a 260 hitter in his minor league career. My point is that Austin Martin has not projected so far to back up being the guy that everyone was raving about as definitely being the top guy in that draft. Yeah. Now, the conversation surrounding Drew Jones is more heightened than the conversation was about Austin Martin at the time. The conversation now surrounding Drew Jones is, dude, this guy's that good. Yeah. Like, he's that good. You don't screw this up. Whatever you do, you just take Drew Jones and be done with it. Move on. Don't try to outsmart yourself this time. This is the guy. That's tricky because we just haven't seen Mike Elias and his camp do that yet. We have not seen them go the high school route with their top pick.
And the other kid this year is Holiday, Matt Holiday.
Jackson Holiday is thought of as that high. And there are still people that say, while Drew Jones is the best prospect and Jackson Holiday might be the next best prospect, the guy with the highest upside is Elijah Green, who's the son of former Raven Eric Green. So, that's kind of but that seems like an extraordinary wild card. Like, you've never taken a high school player before, and now you're going to take the guy that's the upside guy that people are kind of worried about the swing and miss stuff with. I don't know.
We'll know in about five and a half weeks.
Yep,
right?
All-Star weekend. That's the time.
Yeah. All-Star game this year is the 19th of July.
Is that right? It's the following week?
Yeah.
Oh man, I planned my vacation poorly. Yeah. I thought I planned it perfectly for All-Star week.
Honey, never mind. I just read that the other day.
We're going on a cruise with my parents. By the way, my parents are cruise people, and they decided they wanted the entire family, kids included, to go on a cruise with them. I've never been on a cruise before. This is the amount of things that
Bring
go
out
in.
The lifeboat.
I swear to God, I have gotten 12 emails from well, you got to make sure you do this, and you got to make sure you do that, and you can't do it. I'm like, is this a vacation? Like, what? And by the way, all we're doing is going to Central America in the middle of July. The sun is going to murder me every day.
What could possibly go wrong?
God. But we're going to be gone. I haven't really talked about this openly. I'm going to be gone, and Griffin's actually on vacation the same week. But we're timing it out. I think we've kind of hinted that we are making a move here at Pressbox. We're going to be leaving the Hamden area and moving into the county. And
been here 16 years.
That's remarkable. That is remarkable. We're excited about it. Like the rest of the world, the pandemic kind of changed the way the office looks here, and this space just no longer was the right fit for our company, and so we're moving to Towson, and it's going to require probably us taking some time off completely. Like, there's just I've got another studio we might use for a little while in order to make sure we're doing the show, but ultimately there's probably going to be an amount of time where we're just Stan's not filling in, KZ's not filling in. It's just we're off for a little while this summer. Not a prolonged period of time, not a month, just an amount of time this summer. We will probably end up just being off because
to get the studio
we want to make
the
sure
right
we get
way.
we want to make sure this. We're looking to upgrade, by the way, as we do this. We're looking to improve the look, the sound, all of it in the process of making this move to a new studio. So I haven't really talked about that much because it doesn't largely affect you, but we're kind of nailing that down. It's coming within the next month or so. There will likely be some time where we will just be taking some time off here in the middle of the summer.
Your two sons are not suing each other.
Not that I know of. Not yet. But there's days where they threaten.
They might sue you over the cruise.
100%. Although they're very excited. They see that there's a water slide. They don't care about anything. In their mind, their day, they get to spend the entirety of the day going down the water slide. That's all they're thinking about. They getting off the boat? No. We will be using the water slide for 12 hours a day. That's all we're going to be doing. All right, when we come back in, I want to get to a few questions. One, this has been presented from Chris. So, Stan, I'm teasing it. Don't answer it yet. I'm teasing it. This is from Chris. Do you guys think there's any way that this forces MLB's hand to step in and do something? When we come back in, we'll address that. Jim Bowden still to come this morning. Stan the Fan Charles is here. It's a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Are you ready, soccer fans? This summer, the English Premier League returns to Baltimore. Arsenal, Everton, square off in the Charm City match, July 16th, under the lights at M&T Bank Stadium, home of the Baltimore Ravens. This is your only opportunity to take in a Premier League match this summer in the Mid-Atlantic region. Individual and group tickets are on sale at BaltimoreRavens.com.
The biggest pro wrestling stars today and all time all have one thing in common. You've heard them on Jobbing Out.
Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
The great Kurt Angle.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Matt Riddle.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man.
The champ, Drew McIntyre.
Oh, thank you for having me.
The great Ron Simmons.
Keith Lee.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
Bill Goldberg.
My pleasure.
Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mick Foley is with us.
This is the greatest name for a wrestling show I've ever heard.
MJF.
I'm glad you're happy I'm on this show because I'm freaking miserable.
Le champion!
Chris Jericho.
Le champion.
AJ, Aaron, Brandon, and Glenn are talking pro wrestling every week on Jobbing Out. Find it at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows that the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman, diving into where his passion for baseball and for catching comes from and how he uses that passion to elevate those around him in the Orioles organization. Also inside, Bo Smolka takes a look at how the Ravens' 2021 draft picks can make progress in year two, and Glenn Clark offers a very unique tribute to former rival Mike Krzyzewski that all Maryland fans can appreciate. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
To follow the show on Instagram, it's just Glenn Clark Radio. And to follow the show on OnlyFans, wait, I don't think you're supposed to know about that one. Any hoodle. Take it away, boys.
Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with us this morning here on GCR. Stan, you and Gary Stein had a very interesting guest on your show last night.
Yes, we interviewed, came about through Gary, his knowledge of UMBC sports and athletics. We interviewed a brilliant softball pitcher named Courtney Coppersmith, who is a pretty amazing young woman. She's not only like an academic All-American for the second year in a row, she's staying for a fifth year at UMBC to get her doctorate, to start her doctorate in chemistry. She wants to be a pharmaceutical researcher, researching, creating chemicals and things for stuff. So she's pretty amazing. But in addition to that, she's just a tremendous softball pitcher who the past 2 years has had an earned run average of under
It's
one,
unbelievable.
like
She's
0.60 or something.
She's almost single-handedly delivered them
Yeah.
to the NCAA tournament multiple times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible.
And in addition to that, she's very upfront about her own battles with anxiety and depression. And she's very well-spoken, just a very special young lady.
If you missed that show, or if you missed Stan and Ross catching up with Mike Boddicker earlier in the week, go to facebook.com/PressBoxSports, PressBoxOnline.com/video, or YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. You can find those shows there. All right, Stan, Chris wants to know, is this the moment where somehow MLB steps in?
Well, MLB certainly would probably reserve the right to step in, but that could possibly produce yet another lawsuit. I think more than likely, my bet would be right now that John Angelos and Rob Manfred have sort of buddied up, and I think Rob is appreciative of what John brings to the table. And my gut feeling is they don't feel the same way about Lewis. So that's just my gut feeling tells me if I had to bet, I think Rob Manfred would put his chips in the John and Georgia Angelos folder for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just don't even know what that would be. I don't know what MLB could do here. Like I think
you see the problem is the last time they did step in was the Frank McCourt situation out in Los Angeles when they forced him to sell the Dodgers. But they had found that there was so much impropriety in the way that they handled their finances that they were using Dodger money to buy homes in Rome and Jamaica, wherever they owned a home. The Dodgers were paying for that home, and that's not the bylaws of MLB. That's not the way your finances are run.
Understood.
Yeah.
Dave wants to know, Glenn, agree with you about the Brady Angelos. That was a Freudian slip. The Brady Anderson situation. By the way, Brady was close enough with Peter and Lou that perhaps you could have called him Brady Angelos.
Yeah.
But wonder about some of the other folks that have been let go over the years. I feel like I'd like to know an answer about who it was that wanted Gary Thorne out, for example. If John was behind that, I feel like that would not play well in the court of public opinion and might sway people. I've got to be honest with you. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea.
Look, I like Gary Thorne as a broadcaster. Gary Thorne is also a lawyer. And I don't know exactly all that went down, but from what I heard, they wanted him to – they didn't want older broadcasters around because of the fears with COVID. And older broadcasters just happen to make the most money. So I think they thought that Gary would kind of go along with things, and I think he tried to argue that his contract called upon him to be paid for this amount of money. And I think they got into a financial dispute. I don't think it was like that John Angelos came in one day and says, this gives me a chance to get rid of Gary Thorne. I think Gary sort of was the noisy wheel, and they just sort of said, hey, his contract's over after next season. Let's just not continue the relationship.
All I would say, I'm not telling you.
Yeah.
I am not necessarily saying that I'm siding with anything, right? Because this is clearly a problem that is far bigger than anything that I have the capacity for. My question is more, do I have faith in John Angelos as a leader of the Baltimore Orioles moving forward? And I've said before, I'm trepidatious, of course. I think you have to be trepidatious about that. As I've discussed with a lot of people, I'm willing to say that I don't blame John specifically for the mistakes that had been made previous to him being moved into the role of individual point person. I will not judge him by the things that Peter had done. I will not choose to do that. But do I know that John Angelos is the man that can be the steward and the leader for a dynamic championship contending baseball team? How would I possibly know that? I mean, how could I? How could I know that? We've never seen that. I think I like Mike Elias, right? Like, I think I do. I mean, there's still some things that have to be proven with that, but I think I like Mike Elias. I think that was a good hire. I think I like Sig Mejdal. I think there are things that were good things. I certainly like finally getting an app. I certainly like there are things that have been promising over the years. There are things that I would say, no, of course I don't like that. There's no justification of that, whatever it is. But ultimately, if John's going to be the guy moving forward, I don't know. There's nothing that's occurred yet that would make me say John can't be an effective leader and owner and steward of a franchise moving forward. I like everybody else, would like there to be, I would like to put aside, assuage everyone's, even if they're pointless or baseless fears, I would like for there to be a lease. I would like for that to exist so that we can stop with the nonsense, so we can stop with all of that and not have to talk about it, deal with it, even let idiots discuss it on social media. I would like that. That still lingers a little bit when we have these conversations. But, that's sort of where I am with that.
Yeah. I have a great deal of confidence that John can do all the things that need to be done to run this franchise in an appropriate manner. What speaks of the problems are this lawsuit. Its very existence is messy.
And this is a fair question from Aaron. Aaron says, does this lawsuit mean that that John Angelos can't spend any money because he's being sued and that's being tied up? If this thing drags on into the offseason, do we know that the Orioles won't be able to spend money on any players?
Well, we touch on that in the Bowden interview. That's what I've maintained for a long time, that I think the family is hamstrung by the fact that they don't have, in addition to the fact they've had to put a gigantic number aside to pay the Nationals in a settlement of that lawsuit, that they have not had access to Peter's checkbook. I think,
That's a big problem.
I've heard tale of people that have gotten hold of a parent's checkbook when they became incapacitated or died, and wrote checks that shouldn't have been written.
100%.
What I will say is, most people, it's funny, and I certainly don't know tax law that well. But I've talked to a couple people, and the thing is, when Peter passes, that is not the obstacle to John, Lewis, and Georgia retaining ownership of the Baltimore Orioles, because the club will pass to Georgia, and in that case, there are not tax ramifications when a spouse takes over. It's when she would pass that the issues would trigger gigantic
inheritance taxes.
Yeah,
yes.
And so that would be, and again, I do not know the impact that Trump's tax, Trump changed some of the tax law for estate taxes, inheritance taxes. So I don't know the impact of those things. But I would say that the Orioles, in my opinion, even though I side with John making it through this, I would say in the next 5 years they are probably in different hands.
The word you use at the top of the show is sad, right?
Yeah.
And I want to go back to that for a second, because is it it sad because you're watching a family dispute, or is it sad because of the impact that it's having on
fans?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's sad for both parties. You know, if you call the fans a party, I think it's very sad that their baseball team that they care so much about passionately has this infight going on that could potentially impact the ability to do things. You know,
I think there's no way around that. That every time you want to feel an amount of hope, and I feel like the last couple of weeks, while the Grayson Rodriguez injury certainly, it hurt. There's no doubt about it. I just had this really wonderful conversation with Peter Gammons the other day, and Peter's just going on about how much hope he feels, how the arrival of Adley Rutschman and sort of seeing things start to move into place, and how competitive they've been this season, and how good the bullpen is, and that maybe it's proof about their development.
The light is there.
There's been so much hope that has come with it. And we said all along, we're not overvaluing that. We're not saying that means they're a contender or that they're a sure thing to be able to win a World Series in the next 5 years. But it's light after what has been a very dark few years post-2016. So that feeling, you're allowing casual fans to sort of feel an amount of, hey, something might be brewing here. It might be
and it's almost like that's been snatched away.
The moment you start to feel that hope, someone comes and punches you in your head and says, how dare you? How dare you feel an amount of hope?
Right.
Anything remotely positive towards the Orioles, understand it's always going to be draining. It's always going to suck the life out of you being an Orioles fan. How dare you try to feel any amount of positivity towards this? And that's the crushing part to me. The crushing part is it comes at a moment where it felt like, whatever phrase you want to use, they were turning the corner. They were, whatever it is.
It's just funny. I think back to the fact it was the summer of 1993 that the Angelos family ended up buying the Baltimore Orioles. So that's 29 years ago. I'm imagining that Lewis was about 24.
Yeah, somewhere right around there. Yeah, exactly right.
And John was 26, 27. I would say that John and Lewis were probably the ones as older children. I mean, when I say older, I don't mean they were adult children that were tugging at Daddy's things about how cool this would be to own the Baltimore
this is
Orioles.
what we do. This gets to be our life now.
This is our thing, you know.
100%.
And I know the whole history of Georgia Angelos. Georgia's maiden name was Casouras. Lou Casouras is her brother. The Casouras family, this is when I was 7, 8, 12 years old, 14 years old. At Memorial Stadium, there was a little white truck that was like the Good Humor truck, but it would have been the first food truck of the 20th century.
Wow.
And it had a little sign that said Casouras, on it. And Georgia worked on that truck when she was 10, 12 years old at the Oriole games. And when the game would start, Georgia would go into the ballpark. Her brother was on the truck, maybe her father, but that's how big a deal it was for her to be the owner of the Baltimore Orioles.
Wow. I did not know that story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boy. And
it's an incredible story, and for that, and believe me, I've been through the ringer with the Angelos family because I was so critical of Peter, and Lou took quite a bit of exception to the fact that I was critical of his dad, and always pointed to me and said, why can't you see that this is this local story that's so positive, And I'd say, because my baseball team's being screwed up.
Correct.
It's not being run right.
Like you can't get around that.
And now at this pivotal moment in the history of the franchise, I'm sad because it was such a great local story, and it's
it should have been. Yes.
And it's gotten forever,
the other thing too, had somebody so I think we're all aware of what's going on with Dan Snyder and the Washington Commanders, who now literally have been told by both D.C. and Virginia, get bent. We won't have you here.
Right.
I guess Larry Hogan is still willing to offer some amount of money on the table for them to remain in Maryland for a new stadium, but like he's certainly not going to sweeten the pot. He said, like, look, whatever's there is there. If they want to take it, they can. And somebody who works in radio in D.C., who was by no means trying to like be an apologist for Dan Snyder or something like that, said, hey, you guys are all cheering this, but are you going to cheer for it when it leads to him just deciding to move the team to Portland? Are you going to cheer for it when it decides to him saying, I can get a better deal in Salt Lake City. I can get a better deal wherever it is. And I understood what he was trying to say, but it doesn't mean that we stop being critical. It doesn't. There's a reason why someone is so despised. Dan Snyder, and I'm not trying to compare. Dan Snyder is one of the most vile individuals that has ever lived, right? Like he is just a truly horrendous human being. We thought he was just a bad football owner. No, as it turns out, he is a awful human
being, yeah.
Like there's no getting around that.
Much worse than Griffin.
Well, I mean, Griffin's. I've heard some things. I've heard some things
over at Towson.
And look, Peter Angelos was not a good baseball owner, but Peter Angelos is a philanthropist and has done a lot of good things for a lot of people in town. He's not been a good baseball owner. I can't compare him to Dan Snyder because Dan Snyder, we now know, is a bad human, is a really terrible person, not a bad football owner, an awful, wretched human being. But still, that does not escape from criticism. Like the idea that like you have to live in fear. Well, you better not say anything negative about him because he might end up moving the team somewhere else. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, you have to be willing to say, as you once upon a time had to say, look, this isn't okay.
Yeah.
This isn't all right. We have to be able to say those things without living in fear. I have never feared the Orioles moving. It's been, and people far more intelligent than me have said, you know, like it's just never, it will never be allowed to happen. Baseball will never allow for a monumental stadium that exists. They'll let the Rays move. They'll let the Athletics move if they want to.
From two shitholes.
Correct, because there's nothing there, because baseball has nothing to hold up. Baseball's not going to allow for the team that plays there in a good situation to be moved. There have been other arguments made that, like, you know, okay, but what, it's just, that's, I will stand by. Enough intelligent people have made that abundantly clear to me that I've never, and combined with no actual threat, with nothing more than nonsense speculation that's been thrown or bandied about for years, tied to the fact that John Angelos has connections in Nashville. And as you and I have talked about before, he also has connections in Saratoga. It's really weird that we just decide, hey, if somebody's got some property somewhere, then we think they're just going to try to move them. Now, I get it. Nashville's been very aggressive in recent years trying to get baseball. They've created a group that's trying to land a baseball team in Nashville somehow, some way.
The first thing you'd do if you were doing that was not to own a house under your name.
Right.
You would have a company name.
Correct.
Or
something along
like
those
that.
lines.
Yeah,
exactly right, because that's the way you're trying to go. Today's show also brought to you by, this one's brought to you by the print issue of Press Box. You know what, Stan? Do you want to make next week is going to be the new print issue of Press Box hitting newsstands.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about it?
Why don't you go ahead?
This is the final week for you to get this one.
Yep.
Adley Rutschman on the cover. Great story from Luke Jackson, all about Adley's passion for catching and for baseball and why it was that immediately he was not going to be viewed as any old rookie, that he was immediately expected to become a leader for this baseball team on day one. Remarkable story from Luke Jackson in that issue. We got one last week in order to get it.
Yeah.
Next week, I don't remember exactly what day it is.
It's going to come out Wednesday the 15th.
Wednesday the 15th.
Yep.
Stan's going to be running all over town, getting you the new print issue of Press Box. And on the cover of that issue, you will find John Harbaugh. Now, it's very unique. John Harbaugh's going into his 15th year.
I heard that there's a lawsuit between John
there is
and
not.
Jim
Well,
Harbaugh.
By the way, if I was John, and I don't know if you ever read the legendary Peter King story of them playing basketball in the driveway after the Super Bowl, is one of my favorite stories of all time. John and Jim are playing basketball with the family. Like there's a Harbaugh family basketball game going on, and Jim's team wins. And Jim says, it's great to win. I love winning. John, you ever won anything? It's one of my favorite stories ever. So John's on the cover as he's going into his 15th year as the head coach of the Ravens. But it's not uniquely, the issue is not uniquely centered around John. It's our first ever coaches issue. It's our first ever issue of Press Box celebrating coaches. And that list includes other coaches who are coming up on milestones or have surpassed milestones or, who have recently retired. Also inside, we honor Ken Niumatalolo, who's going into his 15th year as the head coach at Navy. Janine Tucker, who just retired as the legendary head coach of the women's lacrosse team at Johns Hopkins. Pat Clatchy, who I believe just became the all-time leader in games coached in the Catholic League. An extraordinary Lou Eckrell, of course, who just stepped aside as the legendary baseball coach at Calvert Hall. From the pro, college, and high school levels, men's and women's, this issue recognizes the area's legendary coaches and coaches coming up on milestones. And I think it's something we're going to look to do kind of moving forward. I think the coaches issue is going to become kind of a staple for us in future years here at Press Box. So we're excited about that. And what we did is we allowed some of the players that cared the most and the deepest about these coaches to tell stories in their own words. We stepped aside, and I'll tell you that for John Harbaugh, Sam Cook and Zach Orr and.
But you made this happen.
Some of it. Some of it, and Luke was involved, But what we did, we kind of just got out of the way. Brendan Iambadejo is one, and Ray Rice is one. Guys who have had unique relationships. Not the most famous players, necessarily. Although in some, I'll tell you, Ken Niumatalolo's were Malcolm Perry and Keenan Reynolds. So I would assume are probably the two most famous players that he's had. But we reached out and we said, hey, who are the guys whose relationships were really unique, or gals whose relationships were really unique with this coach? That's who we want to talk to, not just necessarily the famous or the biggest star players that the coach coached. And so we ended up with this really neat print issue that came out of it, of these unique relationships. Why? Why has, in an era where coaches don't last 15 years, why has John Harbaugh been able to do it? What has made him special? How has he stood the test of time? As football has evolved, how has he evolved with it? Those were the things we wanted to know, and we got some really thoughtful, impactful answers about those questions. We're excited about you guys diving into the coaches issue, which hits newsstands next week. Jim Bowden still to come this hour. I have a bit of a conundrum that I want to run by you, Stan the Fan. I want to have some fun with this.
Okay.
I have been asked.
Well, I'm Mr. Fun.
I've been asked to be a part of a sexy calendar for charity, and I agreed to do it.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah.
What are you trying to say, Stan the Fan, Charles?
That is funny. That is funny.
Wait.
Who are some of the other people involved?
Hang on.
Larry, Moe, and Curly?
There has been, to kick off this charity sexy calendar.
Right.
Are you trying to recruit Stan?
No. I don't know. Maybe. We are hosting a car wash.
Okay.
I have been asked to dress sexy for the car wash. I'm going to run by you a friend of mine.
Potential outfits?
Yeah, and you tell me what
There's
you.
only one. It's
all right.
Speedos.
Wait, let's
leopard print.
I'll show it to you. We'll talk about it when we come back in. All right. That's next. It's a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Stan the Fan Charles is here.
Hey Birdland families, this Father's Day, join the O's in celebrating Dad at the Yard as they take on the Tampa Bay Rays Sunday, June 19th at 1:35. Go above and beyond by treating Dad to a fun-filled day with the entire family. Make sure to get to the ballpark early because the first 10,000 fans ages 15 and over will receive an Orioles golf visor. Dad's Day done right this year with the O's. Don't wait until the last minute when planning Father's Day. Secure your tickets now at Orioles.com/tickets.
Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgambling.com. solvinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Baseball is back, and so is the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash-fried pork belly with our popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and take a bite out of the Crunch Burger, topped with home run sauce, white American cheese, and house-made chips. It also features irresistible options like a baseball-cut sirloin with blue cheese, grilled shrimp with garlic butter, and a strawberry salmon salad. And then there's the closer, the Cracker Jack Sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jack. This menu will be gone at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to find out more. Great food, good sports.
The 2022 baseball season is in full swing, and the future is brighter than ever for your Baltimore Orioles. I'm Paul Valley.
And I'm Zach Goodman.
And together we bring you the Bat Around every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon with everything you need to know about the Orioles and baseball as a whole. From veterans like Cedric Mullins, Austin Hayes, and Ryan Mountcastle,
to young stars like Adley Rutschman, Grayson Rodriguez, and DL Hall.
We've got you covered for every game, every pitch,
and every debut.
You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. So join us live on the Bat Around every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
It's statistically proven that the show sounds better if you're not wearing pants. Like me, right now. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
And Stan the Fan Charles has joined us in studio here on a Friday edition of the program. Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40 a.m. It's brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. We try to get you ready for the week in sports betting. Try to offer a few juicy winners. Aaron Oster had a good week this week. Both told you to bet the under on Keegan Thompson. I still can't believe that hit. Keegan Thompson, who gave up 7 runs, he said bet the under on him allowing 5.5 hits. He gave up 7 runs on 5 hits. Unbelievable. That's an unbelievable win.
Good get.
That is an incredible win. He also told you to bet the over on 1.5.
What is Scott Van Pelt? Bad
beats. Yeah, this is
good win.
Great win. And he also said bet the over on Robert Williams and 1.5 blocks in Game 3 of the NBA Finals, and he got 4, in fact, in that game. So a good week for you to have made some money if you've been listening to Aaron on Simply the Bets this week.
I want to say hello to a listener of the Glenn Clark Show, Josh Charles.
I love Josh so much. So Josh, I don't know if you saw this, Stan, because I think it might have been when you were in the throes of your COVID event.
Yeah.
Andrew Stecca lost our picks contest last season. And so Stecca literally had to fly all the way back to Baltimore from Arizona in order to pay off his penance, which involved him getting his back waxed right here in this studio.
Oh, he had to do it here in this
He had to come in studio for show content.
He's a stand-up guy.
Oh, if he loses, he's gonna. It's the second time he's lost the picks contest, and he's flown back from Arizona.
What did he do the previous time?
Oh God. Oh, he had to do shots of tuna fish and sardine juice off an ice luge that we set up here.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean it was truly grotesque. And inevitably what happens whenever you do one of these shows.
Have you ever lost one of these?
I've lost a few of these over the years. I remember I had to eat bull testicles one time. I had to, we've all had our share of losing. By the way, Griffin, this is what you signed up for. There's going to be future bets.
I know. I'm rethinking.
Yeah, this is the way it's going to go. So Josh just so happened to tune in the morning that we were waxing Andrew Stecca's back. He just decided to log on that morning, and he was like, the hell am I watching? I love you, Josh. I always appreciate you.
Right now, what do I have up on my computer right now?
You have
AOL.
Yes.
The stories. So I'm fishing through the stories. This is about 2 years ago, and I read a story about a guy who ate like a small lizard.
What?
You know, he was put up. It was a rugby team, like in New Zealand or something.
Like a.
They said he said, "What if I ate this or something?" And all of his buddies chanted, "Yeah, go, come on, you coward!" And he ended up eating it. It ended up infecting him.
Oh, Jesus
in
Christ.
a way.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not okay. We're not going to do that. Although we did have Stecca eat a tarantula. It was not live. It was a freeze dried.
Okay,
It was
sort of like the Mariners with the grass.
With the grass, which I also had to remember once upon a time. One of the bets that I lost required me to eat a bowl of grasshoppers.
This was
one
one
morning.
of the saddest stories. This guy.
That's terrible. That's truly awful. Let's not do that.
What I was doing was warning you in the future. Don't ever think it's funny to like.
Yes, we're not going to do that. We're not. Although, do you remember there was a book called How to Eat Fried Worms? It was a children's book. They turned it into a movie years ago. We had to read it. We had to read it in like 3rd grade, and I don't know.
This is back in the days before they banned books.
Yes, before they banned books. Yes, and I remember one of the kids in the class. His name was Billy Wallace, and he was a bit of the class clown type. And Billy suggested to our 3rd grade teacher, could we get extra credit if we ate worms? Because the story was there was a bet, and these 2 boys ate fried worms every day for 30 days. And I don't remember what the moral of the story was. I don't remember why this turned into a children's book and why we read it in school. But Billy said, would we get extra credit if we ate fried worms? And for some stupid reason, this 3rd grade teacher played along with it and was like, if you can get your parents to sign a permission slip, we'll let you do it. Well, I tell you what happened. Every single boy in the class, because we were 3rd grade boys, went home and got our – and this is a different time. Like, parents were a little bit more willing in whatever year this would have been.
But the worms would be dead. They would
be dead, yes. They would be dead, and we would So every boy in the class went back and said, would you be willing to sign this thing for us to get extra credit for eating some worms in school? And, they all knew. We sat around and played in the dirt all summer long. We probably ate a lot of worms during the course of an average summer. So they all said yes. They all agreed to it. None of the girls went home and asked.
Can't understand why.
It was 13 for 13 on the boys and 0 for 13 on the girls. And so she decided we weren't going to do that. She just agreed to give us all extra credit instead, and then it was a whole thing. All right, so I am.
Get back to this,
I have agreed. Our friends at KNS Automotive do a sexy calendar every year. It's called The Boys of Hamden. And it's sort of ironic. It's not necessarily
especially because you're moving out of Hamden.
Well, there's an irony to that too. But it's not necessarily the most attractive gentlemen that end up in this calendar. I am the new Mr. September. This was a previous Mr. September. As you can tell, probably not your traditional pinup model who was appearing in this calendar.
What's he holding there?
I believe that's a beer keg, yes,
okay.
from the Waverly Brewery, in fact.
Right.
Some of the gentlemen are actually, in very good shape, and
you're in good shape.
This gentleman leaning over a pool table, Mr. October here, he seems to be an attractive gent, right? So
not Mr. Cocktober, he's Mr. October, right? Right?
You went right for it.
Yeah.
You went right for it.
I couldn't. It was so
you
low
went
hanging.
right
it was
for
so
it.
low hanging.
So I said yes. I found out that this is going to benefit the Hamden Family Center, a wonderful charity here locally.
A wonderful family center.
I said, absolutely, you got it. If I can help out with that, I'm totally willing to do it. And I would think that even if whatever this sexy picture of me ends up on the internet, I'd like to think that people would say, hey, he was doing a good thing for charity reasons. It wouldn't impact me whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So they say, hey, we want to kick off the Boys of Hamden this year by hosting a car wash at KNS right here at Falls Road, 3939 Falls Road, on June 25th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. In order to sort of kick it off for the year.
Is that a Saturday?
It's a Saturday. $15 to get your car washed by
very good.
the Boys of Hamden.
Okay.
So we'd like to, make it a kind of a sexy car wash, right? And so I said, all right, well, yeah.
Now, is that where your picture will be taken?
No, that there will be a photo shoot in August.
Okay.
This is just to sort of raise some money, and bring back the Boys of Hamden concept.
And are all the photos taken over there or at a place of your choosing?
I believe they have a studio that they use for the photo shoot. I believe that's the case.
Okay.
So I say, well, I want to play along. I want to be a good sport about this. I want to be that guy. I start searching. You threw out the idea. I go to the interwebs and I say, yeah, let me find a Speedo. That's what this is about, right? So I did order a Speedo.
Do you get to choose the month, by the way?
I was assigned September, but I think that was because my birthday is in September.
Okay.
I think that was the reason why I was assigned September.
All right.
So
you're about to show me something.
You tell me if you think this could prove to be problematic in any way, because it's already on the way to my house. Do you think that would prove to be a problematic?
I love it.
I love it as well.
I
love it.
Yeah.
So for those that don't see, it's a nice red Speedo, and right in the frontal area.
Now, see, that would be really perfect for me.
That you're saying
I'm
that
known as
Mr. Cocktober. That's what you're known as.
Mr. Hot Dog.
Mr. Hot Dog.
Mr. Hot Dog.
That's actually a good point. If you do know, Stan loves a good wiener.
I love a good wiener.
It's a thing that people know about Stan. Yeah. There is a ballpark Frank right where
how do we
where
know
my
it's a,
Frank.
How do we know it's a ballpark?
Well, I think that looks like a ballpark Frank to me, Stan.
Yeah.
So I work for a Jesuit school at Loyola.
Right.
I have a professional job. I'm on staff at Stevenson.
Right.
I'm in the running for a significant job at the moment. Do you think I have anything to worry about if I wear this Speedo to the Boys of Hamden car wash? Or do you think if that were to come up and they were to ask me a question, I would be able to explain this was a charity event and they would be under?
I think you're in very dangerous water.
Oh, you think that?
I think you're in good shape.
I am a little bit nervous about it. Without context, someone just saying, hey, have you seen?
Just get a lot of soap on it.
Just keep it nice and soapy when people are snapping photos of this. I would ask that you consider coming out and letting the Boys of Hamden wash a car on Saturday, June 25th, to help us raise money for the Hamden Family Center.
I think Jane and I are going to probably try to be there.
I'll be there. I will take care. I will personally buff and wax every nook and cranny.
Come on, they're not going to wax cars.
I don't think we're waxing cars. I don't think that's part of this.
It's a car wash.
Yeah, it's a car wash. It's exactly what it is.
It's a good price for a car.
And I will happily, in my hot dog Speedo, I will happily take care of all of those needs.
Will
for
Dave
washing
be
that car.
there?
I assume.
Yeah.
I have to. I know Dave's had
Dave
some.
might have some.
Dave's had some health issues recently too. But I think Dave will be okay to be there.
He'll have the compound there, so they'll spot some.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, right. Little nick or something.
Yeah,
right. We'll take care of that.
I'm always amazed at how compound does that.
It is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's truly remarkable.
Yeah.
Truly remarkable. All right, Stan the Fan from this is from Ryan. Ryan says, Glenn, appreciate the conversation you guys are having this morning about the Orioles situation. I guess here's my question ultimately. If the Orioles are going to inevitably be sold, will there be assurances that they will be sold to someone who will keep them local no matter what? Will Major League Baseball prioritize that? And the secondary part is, are they more appealing coming on the other side of a rebuild, or would they be more appealing if they already had players locked up under contract for a potential buyer? I'm not really sure about that part of it. Are they more appealing if they're in the middle of rebuild?
Well, generally, when you're selling something,
you try to strip it down.
You strip it down.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think a team is much more valuable when it's a good team on the field.
Right. That's what I would like. And I would say, I guess if the question is, and maybe I can stretch this out. If the question is, are they more valuable if, say, they lock up Adley Rutschman ahead of time? If they buy out the arbitration years, if there's a 10-year deal, which, it seems crazy, but like that there's a known centerpiece commodity that exists that is going to be there for some time, does that make them more appealing? I guess my answer would be there's only 30 Major League Baseball teams.
Right. I think what makes him more appealing is if Mike Elias is as successful in an ongoing fashion over the next 2 or 3 years, and whomever comes in and is assessing the value of the franchise, and he hires his, let's say it's Dave Dombrowski as his baseball expert, and Dombrowski says, hey, Glenn Clark, you got that big job 5 years ago.
Right.
Now you got the money to buy this franchise. This team has an incredible farm system. That, to me, has a real value to it, more so than even locking up the major league players.
I don't know that I necessarily, but again, I do think, and I've talked about this a couple times, I do think the side of this with locking up your own guys. Stan, I said,
Well, how many guys are you talking
right now, we're talking about one, frankly, right? Like, I guess somebody would make an argument that maybe Austin Hayes has earned a contract, right? And we can have a conversation about that, but that's a secondary. It's Adley Rutschman's the one. And I said a couple weeks ago, and I get it, this maybe people don't feel quite as hot about this because of his early struggles, but I'm not willing to entertain that too much. I said then that for as exciting as Adley Rutschman's first game was, mitigated by the circumstances, but for as exciting as it was, I think the response to doing a deal with Adley Rutschman, buying out arbitration years, would be even more electric, would do even more for this fan base than just him being called up and playing his first game. Showing a commitment to, we're doing something here. We've got a plan. And we're intending for it to be real and for it to matter, would go even further than just Adley Rutschman getting here. Because Adley Rutschman getting here, there will always be someone who has become so dejected and so disenfranchised by the struggles of the Orioles. They're just going to say, well, this is just going to be like Machado all over again. He'll be here for a couple of years, and then he's going to go, he'll be a Yankee in 5 years or whatever it's going to be. There'll always be that Jim in Sparrow's Point who feels that way. But doing something like that what is the pushback to it? Everybody in the city would say, holy crap, this is far different than anything this franchise has ever done before. This matters. This is real. They're doing something. So whether or not it's the right thing to do, I don't know. I mean, that's a completely different conversation. I just genuinely believe that it would give a jolt to a fan base unlike anything else they could do right now.
Interesting.
Interesting. Now, say, like, if the team were to hit, like, the open market, I guess, is there an owner that you would like to see by the Orioles?
I haven't spent a second thinking about that. I mean, I have no
like Steve Bisciotti?
No, I believe there's still a rule that you can't own two teams.
Oh, really?
For antitrust reasons. I believe. Although, I mean, look, Ted Leonsis owns the Wizards, and I don't remember what the rule.
I think it's the baseball and the football.
It's specifically baseball and football.
I think that's what it is. For
a
time, Hazenga owned the Dolphins
and the Marlins.
But I'm not sure.
Also, Steve Bisciotti is not that type of wealthy. He's just not. He's not. Like, he's very wealthy. Don't get me wrong. Steve Bisciotti is extraordinarily wealthy. He's not Stan Kroenke wealthy. He's wealthy by any of our standards. He's unbelievably wealthy. Yeah. But he's not that level of wealthy, too.
The prices of these franchises.
It's insane.
It's
and that's what I come back to. Like, whatever the situation is with the Orioles, there's only so many of these teams available. Yeah. And they have all proven, no matter how many times the owners try to say we're not profitable, the facts spit in the face of that. Yeah. Every time one of these teams gets sold, it's for an extraordinary amount more than what it is they bought them for.
I think what would be a more electrifying moment for the club right now would be to sign Trey Mancini, and a more sensible baseball move would be to sign Trey.
I think the sensible baseball move.
For a 4 or 5 year deal.
Right. Something in the neighborhood of $50 million. Yeah. Right.
Probably 4 years, 55, something like that. Because he's having a really
nice having a great season.
Yeah,
he's having a
really nice
and obviously the last month he's been insane.
And I maintain that as much as every player has the right to get exactly what the most they can get, I don't think he is a greedy type of person that would be saying, no, I think I can get 7 for 79 or 7 for $105 million. I think 455. I think he signs it.
I also just don't know how robust the market. This is the thing I keep saying. We'll talk about this again with the Jim Bowden in a second.
Yeah.
Not just the trade market for Trey Mancini. I just don't know how robust the free agent market is for Trey Mancini. As I keep saying, the more I talk to people, the more I get back the same thing.
Hear my price.
Right.
4 for 55. That's one. It's like 14, 15 million a year.
Well, I hear you.
I don't think that's an outrageous amount for Trey Mancini.
No, I don't think it's an outrageous amount for Trey Mancini.
It's less than 15 million, by the way.
My gut kind of tells me I don't think he's doing. I just don't think
You think if he's on the free agent market, he can't get more?
I think he's a guy that ends up. I almost think he's a guy that ends up taking a 1-year deal. I don't see a robust market for Trey Mancini because, and again.
Do you see
all it takes is one team.
Do you see a more robust market for Ryan Mountcastle?
Boy, that's a good question, Stan. At the moment,
to me, they're kind of the same.
And at the moment, the benefit for
Ryan's
Mountcastle is he's younger, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I would think there would be a more robust market, but they have the same problem. They're positionless, right? And that's where I always, when we talk about Santander, I always say, well, Santander has actually proven he can play a position.
Mm-hmm.
He's a plus. His arm is an extraordinary plus. His range is just mildly a plus, right? But he can play a position. Trey Mancini, you're throwing him out there, admitting he's not really an outfielder, but if we have to, that's what we'll do.
Right.
Anthony Santander has proven he can play right field. He can.
I think Trey's market price has probably gone up. The fact that you've gone from 15 DHs to 30 DHs.
It's certain. There's no question that it helps.
Yeah.
But I guess what we haven't learned yet is, are teams willing to spend money specifically for that guy? Like, does that create? Do they treat the position that way versus just saying, hey, whoever we have will be our DH? We don't have enough evidence yet. It might very well be that that's exactly how teams treat the position moving forward, but we don't have the evidence yet of teams saying we're going to spend with DH in mind versus saying, hey, DH will be whoever the guy is that we already have. We'll just DH for the night. We just don't. We don't know that definitively just yet. We will find out.
Yep.
We will find out, obviously, as that's going to be the way that things go moving forward. All right, and I apologize. Paul has been chiming in. Yes, we've been addressing the lawsuit all morning. I don't know. I have no clue what it is. I don't know if it's someone that you know. Do you know Paul Bellatier? Is that someone you know?
Not off.
All right. So I got.
What does he say? I'm sorry.
Have you guys addressed the bombshell lawsuit yet? Well, it's basically all we talked about all morning, Paul.
Right.
Pretty much in that lawsuit filing, they address pretty much every issue that I don't know what word you think, did and brought up, and it's pretty clear that the ownership wants to move the team to Tennessee. No, that's definitely not something that comes up. Paul, maybe you're a very smart person. Maybe you know something that the rest of us don't. But there is nothing in the lawsuit. No matter how bombastic that line is, there is literally no evidence in the lawsuit of John Angelos wanting to move the team to Tennessee. I get it. We are all marks. We are all rubes. And when anything electric is read, we react very strongly to it instead of putting it under the smallest amount of scrutiny to see if it holds up. The smallest amount of scrutiny to that last night was there anything that actually says that, or did they just throw that line in to try to get you to react the way that you did? And, Paul, it appears as though you reacted the way that you wanted to react to it.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Hook, line, and sinker. Yeah. Sounds like from that article, you guys truly owe me an apology, and I'm going to speak to Michael at the Maryland Stadium Authority next week regarding this. If he's the one that is going to have the ownership of the team, he's going to move the team. Paul, I don't know who you are, man. I just don't know who you are. I don't know what you think you've provided to me over the years. I have no idea.
He's going to talk to Michael.
Well, I'm guessing that's Michael Friends. I assume that's who he means by Michael because that's the Stadium Authority. I assume that's who he's referring to. Paul, I have no idea. I have addressed this multiple times, even providing you an interview. I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are.
Not ringing a bell.
I, Glenn Clark, have not heard from you. If you know something, please, by all means, reach out to me. Tell me what it is that you know. Now, I'm going to put it under scrutiny,
Give me your email address.
Glenn at PressBoxOnline.com. As Peter Angelos once said, I'm a very available person. Glenn at PressBoxOnline.com or GlennClarkRadio@gmail.com. You can have my personal email. Reach out. Tell me what it is that you know, how you know it. I'm going to scrutinize it. I'm not just going to assume it to be fact. I'm going to scrutinize it. But if there's something there, we'll address it. If what you're trying to get me to do is react, I've already read the line from the article 5 times. Sam, we can read it again. If people don't get it, I'm happily going to read it again.
Again, this is the lawsuit brought by Louis Angelos against his brother John and Iman.
Reading
Georgia.
from the Baltimore Banner. Quote, John intends to maintain absolute control over the Orioles, to manage, to sell, or if he chooses to move to Tennessee, where he has a home and where his wife's career is headquartered, without having to answer to anyone, unquote. But if you keep reading, and I know we're not good at that, I understand. That is one of the problems that faces us in 2022 in America, is we read tweets. We don't read what actually is out there. We don't like information. We like information that fits our narrative. But if you keep reading, the following sentence in the story from, you ever heard of Justin Fenton? Pretty good reporter. Tim Prudente, also a pretty good reporter. While the lawsuit speculates that John Angelos might want to move the team, there are no allegations that he took any such steps. It's right there. You don't have to try that hard. You just don't want to. Bigger problem. He's gonna provide us. I know he's gonna get us all that information. All right, we had to do this, as I mentioned. We had to do this yesterday because of scheduling, and so this interview will not discuss the lawsuit. Well, not directly, anyway. Actually, ironically, as I said before, it almost kind of accidentally comes up at one point. But Stan and I had an opportunity to catch up with Jim Bowden, former MLB general manager, now with CBS and SiriusXM and The Athletic, and it was a really great conversation. Let's take a listen right now.
Well, it's always a pleasure to catch up with our next guest, of course, a general manager in Major League Baseball turned a media mogul. I have particularly been reading a lot of his stuff recently at The Athletic, but you hear him all over the place. He is the great Jim Bowden, and he's back with us here on GCR. Jim, it's Glenn and Stan in Baltimore. Great to chat with you as always. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Oh, Glenn and Stan, I love coming on your show. Love listening to your show, and thank you for having me back on.
Well, I want to start just because I'm draft obsessed. It's the way that I am. Is there any reason why it shouldn't be Drew Jones with the #1 pick for the Baltimore Orioles?
So I think Drew Jones and Jackson Holliday, I think it should be one of the two. So it's really hard when you look at these two players because, Drew Jones is elite. He's got all the tools that excite you. Incredible defensive player, has tremendous power. I have a hard time believing he's not going to be a star. But Jackson Holliday is going to hit. Like, this kid can really swing the pole. Not a lot of risk with that bat. Great instincts, great intelligence, like kind of off the charts. And I kind of compare these two guys to the draft that Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa were in, right? Where everybody said, take Buxton, take Buxton, take Buxton. And Mike Elias and that group took Carlos Correa. And Correa ended up being the better player.
He was pretty good.
Over the time period, he was the better player between the two. Buxton has more tools, but Correa's the better player, and he's the one with the World Championship ring. So I kind of feel like you're not going to go wrong either way, to be honest. It really depends on, who you feel better about. I like Jones's overall package more, and I would take Jones. But I got to tell you, Holiday, to me, is a can't-miss bat. So I won't be surprised if the Orioles go either way.
Jim, I'm assuming the Jones kid is very similar to the player his dad was. How about Holiday? Is he sort of a left-handed version of Matt?
A better defensive player. He's a shortstop, so I'd say better defender. But yeah, the bat to me is similar. It's a really good stroke, and he can hit high velocity, stays back well on breaking balls and change-ups, and the bat's going to play. I don't think there's any doubt he's going to hit. He's going to have power, and more importantly, he's going to be a winning player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of those guys where whatever tools he doesn't have, he's going to have that Derek Jeter kind of leadership swag that certainly will make up for anything else. I mean, I think both guys can't miss guys, and I don't think it could go wrong either direction you decided to go.
And of course, there is always the risk, Jim, when we talk about the Orioles in the draft, that they want to cut a deal and they want to do something else, or they want to take specifically a college bat because that's what they've done with Mike Elias. Would it be a mistake to go that route this year? Is the difference between the top guys, the Jones, the Holidays, and, say, a Brooks Lee from Cal Poly or Jacob Berry, so significant that it would be a mistake for them to uniquely do that this year?
Yeah, I think it's a mistake. Other people will not say that, but you're asking my opinion. So yeah, I'm on your show, and clearly, to me, you take one of those two guys. Otherwise, I'm gonna rip you. And the thing that's great about a draft or having this conversation is we all get to look back, 5 or 7 years later, whatever it is, to remind people what you could have done and what you didn't do and what you should have done. We always do that in every single draft, and certainly. I went through more scouting directors than George Steinbrenner went through managers because I just couldn't stand the mistakes. And we'd always look back and go, man, we could have had this guy or that guy, and we did this. And why did we do that? But when you're picking at the very top and you've got guys like Jones and Holiday that check all the boxes they check, I don't think that's the time to go off script.
So what is Brooks Lee then? Like, what how does he measure to those guys?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. Look, any of those guys in the top 10, and I wrote about this in The Athletic, I think there's 10 really good position players that could go 1 to 10. There'll be a pitcher mixed in or not. I just think the difference is when you walk onto a field and you see the Harpers, the Machados, the Trouts, the Acuñas, when the Tatises, when you see that level player, that's kind of the expectation is who's got the ceiling to be the absolute superstar. And there's a difference between a superstar and an all-star. So maybe I'll take Lee as an all-star and these other guys as a superstar.
That's fair. That's fair. Jim Bowden from The Athletic and SiriusXM, CBS Sports HQ with us here on GCR.
Hey, Jim, I want to ask you about two guys that Mike Elias has taken over the past few years. One of them is young Gunnar Henderson, who's just 20 right now and has just gotten the promotion up to AAA. And the other is a guy I saw that he drafted, overslot, paid overslot, was Kobe Mayo. Saw him a couple weeks ago and hitting a home run that was like a Mark McGwire type of home run. Could you talk a little bit about those two players?
I can talk about Henderson. I can't talk about the other guy because I haven't seen him in a couple years. But I do like Henderson because of the hit tool, right?
Yeah.
The kid's going to hit.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I've always told people, the one thing that I learned the hard way during my years is when you hit, you play, and everything else will work out. But you got to have the hit tool. I don't mean the power tool, the steel tool, or you got to be able to hit. And when I cover teams every October, when I'm covering all these World Series teams and playoff teams, the tools that matter the most to a player that I'm covering in World Series for position players is the hit tool one and the field tool. If you hit and you field, you got a chance to win championships because the glove will help the pitching staff win in run prevention. And if you can hit, well, the power can come or the speed can come and become usable. And you look at a guy like Henderson, I would be shocked, stunned if he's not a 300 hitter in the big league.
Yeah.
Wow. Absolutely stunned. And the power's going to come too. It is. He's going to have 20 home run power in the big leagues or more. And he can steal bags. And so, he is my kind of player. I think he was a second-round pick like 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But I love his left-handed bat. He's
Remind
one of those
you,
guys, I get goosebumps when I see him, to be honest.
Does he remind you of a Chipper Jones type of player, ultimately?
I can't go that far.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Chipper's so special to me that when I see a guy like that, I never compare someone, to that because Chipper was Chipper. But I see this kid as a guy that can win a batting title. I see this kid as a guy that can hit 20 to 25 home runs, and there's no risk with this guy.
Yeah.
This guy's going to hit. He's going to play. he's going to be a really good player for a long time. So those are the kind of players that I like. I don't like risk, right? I like to be able to walk into a ballpark and know he's going to hit.
Yeah, I can count on it. Sure.
He hit, you're going to play. So I can't talk about the other guy. I haven't seen him, but I've seen a lot of Henderson.
Jim, I remember reading a couple weeks ago at The Athletic about how excited you were to see the Orioles now with Rutschman and Rodriguez on the way. And, of course, unfortunately not going to be the case with Rodriguez, at least for a little while. And it's been a bit of a struggle for Rutschman. And I'm not trying to – look, it's very young in his career. There's plenty of time. But I do think it's worthy of having a conversation about what our expectations are for Adley Rutschman and whether maybe we had gotten a bit carried away in Baltimore, where once again, much like Matt Wieters years before him, we had anointed someone as, some amalgamation of Mike Piazza and Pudge Rodriguez. And was it ever fair to treat any catcher as someone that could be an offensive centerpiece for your franchise for the next decade?
He will be. And so he will live up to all the expectations you're talking about. He won't be Wieters. He will, in 3 years, be the best catcher in our sport all around, offensively, the whole package. He's that good. Now, the one thing I'll remind people, and that people don't understand, Mike Trout hit 220 his first year in the big leagues. Ken Griffey, Barry Bonds hit 220 first year in the big leagues. People forget that. There is a big difference for rookies in 2022 than there was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Because 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when a rookie came to the big leagues, we didn't know really how to pitch to him outside of what a minor league manager might have told us. And so we had to learn. So a lot of times rookies had great years, and then we were figuring out how to pitch to them. Then they would have what they call a sophomore jinx, they used to call it back then, where the guy's second year he'd struggle because people learned how to pitch to him, and then the third year he'd figure it out again or not. But now what happens in 2022 when you get to the big leagues, we've seen all your at-bats. There's no secrets anymore. I know exactly how to pitch to you. And I got pitchers at this level, at the big league level, that you've never seen before. And I got pitchers that can execute pitches they couldn't execute in a AA and AAA. I got the best of the best here, and that's what you're facing, and I know your holes, and I'm going to expose you, and now you got to adjust. So you get your sophomore jinx year and your rookie year. I mean, look at Bobby Witt struggle the first month of the season. Look at Spencer Torkelson struggles in Detroit. I mean, Jared Kelenic is still struggling in his second year. It's tougher to be a rookie now than ever before because we're all prepared for you. There are no secrets. I don't have to learn about you. I've watched you since high school. I've watched every pitch that's been thrown at you in the minor leagues. I have video of it. So I know exactly how I'm going to beat you. So that's hard. And then for a young kid with those expectations, you think you're going to walk here and just do what you've done your whole life? You've never failed in your life. You were the best in Little League, the best in junior high, the best in high school, the best in college, the best in the minor leagues, and then you walk here. And you don't know what failure means. You've never seen it. So then you got to deal with all that stuff. And then you're dealing with the private jets, and you're dealing with the hotel suites and all the fans and all the expectations, and you got to deal with all that stuff. And oh, by the way, you have money for the first time for a lot of these guys. So I'm making every excuse I can for Adley, and rightfully so. I can promise you in 3 years that all the expectations that Orioles fans have for this kid is going to play out. I promise you that.
All right, we'll be patient.
I've got a question coming from a Baltimore angle, Jim. It looks like Mike Elias has really gotten the pipeline in line now, and it's starting to be you turn it on, and there's going to be prospects. But other than Grayson Rodriguez and D.L. Hall and Kyle Bradish, there's not a lot of pitching in this organization. I'm wondering if you see this year, mid-season, Mancini and or Santander being able to be dealt to bring some type of near-ready prospect arms to the Orioles, because I don't know where the pitching's going to come from.
Yeah, it's going to come from trades or it's going to come from free agency. And all you got to do is, the teams that are able to draft and develop them themselves are few and far between. The Giants were able to do it back with Lincecum, Bumgarner, and Kane. But for the most part, when the Cubs won, they went out and traded or bought the pitching. That's the most operandi. So the whole reason that Mike Elias took the wall and moved it so far out in left field and so high that every team is hit is because he wants free agent pitchers to come to Camden Yards And no free agent pitchers wanted to come to Camden Yards, just like they don't want to go to Coors Field. They don't want to sign in Baltimore. They don't want your money because that ballpark is too small and fly balls are home runs. So now you've made it so that you've got dimensions that if you're a pitcher, I'll go to Camden Yards now.
Mm-hmm.
You've given me an incentive to go there, and you're going to have some money to spend, hopefully, Mr. Angelos Family. I don't think there's any doubt if you trade Santander and or Mancini, you need pitching. Just keep trading for the pitching and load up on the pitching. But also, you got to go to free agency and get some that way, too.
Do you think?
I think this is the offseason. They got to spend some money. I thought last offseason they'd go spend for one guy and try to do at least one guy a year, which they didn't do last year, which I thought they should have. But they have to start doing it this year because you don't want all the kids to arrive and then you don't have enough to win right away.
I could be proved wrong, Jim, but I hear that they don't quite. John doesn't quite have access to the checkbook. The family checkbook, and unless there were details on how the succession plan, I understand that could take a while.
Yeah, no, I've heard the same thing. I've heard that there's a lot of complications, and there's really, a lot of complications with health and a lot of complications with what you can and can't do for a period of time until certain things happen. I understand that. And you've got the lawsuit that's out there. You got the Masson situation. It's complicated. I get it.
Yeah.
But let me say this. There's enough revenue in the industry and you have enough non-arbitration eligible players coming that there is money that you can go out in free agency and add a piece or two this winter.
All right.
There's absolutely a pathway to do that. And that's what has to happen.
Before Glenn finishes up with you, I got to ask you one question. I didn't know Dan Duquette when he came to Baltimore, and I had reason actually not to like Dan. But over time, I really appreciated the work that he did here, given that he sort of had to go into combat with one hand tied behind his back on the international side of things. And he also didn't have full say-so in baseball decisions. Your opinion of the job that Dan did and whether you think he'd be worthy of somebody hiring him again?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think the one thing that any older person, if they want to get back being a GM or a manager, has to understand is how much the game has changed. And if you don't keep up with how it's changed, it's going to be tough to compete.
Yeah.
Because when you have organizations like the Dodgers and the Astros and Tampa Bay, the Mets now, that are so far advanced in technology, analytics, information, preparation, ability to tweak players' swings and mechanics. We've never seen this before in the history of baseball, how far advanced it is.
Yeah.
If you can't embrace that with your staff, then it's not going to work. In Dan's last days in Baltimore, he had too much of the group that he had that was in Boston and Montreal and his previous stops.
Yeah.
There wasn't enough of today's mindset around him to help him, besides being restricted in what he could do internationally. Dan's a really good baseball guy. The only thing I would say is you have to make sure your front office around you is competitive with the best in the sport, because it's going to be tough to win if you're not.
Jim, I know we need to let you go, and I've kept you long. If I could just squeeze in quickly to revisit Mancini for a second. It's a sensitive thing, and I'm sure you understand that here in Baltimore. And you're never going to be able to recoup, full value, right? Because this is Trey Mancini that we're talking about. He's Mr. Oriole at this point. Not to compare him to Brooks Robinson, but you know what I mean. What can you do? Can you do well enough in a Mancini trade that the fan base wouldn't be furious about it at the end? This is a player, for as good of a season he's having, he's positionless, right? Like most teams think they have a Trey Mancini on their roster somewhere. Can you do well enough to not make this become a pitchfork situation with this fan base if you trade Trey Mancini?
No, it's going to be pitchfork when it happens. Let me tell you what the fans want. They want to win, okay? So they'll forgive you in 2 years when you're winning. So win. You got to win. That's it. You're building this thing. You don't have to spend all this money to win. Look at Tampa Bay. But you're getting close enough that in the next 2 years, when I'm back on your show in 2 years, we better be talking about the Orioles being in contention right
no
now.
doubt. Yeah, I hear you.
And then they're going to be okay. They're going to look back and say, we understand. We didn't like it. We wish Trey could have finished his career here. We're going to hear all that, right? But at the end of the day, that's what they want. So just make sure you deliver that. Players come and go. I'm sorry to say that. Whether you're a superstar, a star, a good player, a fan favorite, a hated player, they're all going to come and go. Every single one of them is going to come and go. None of them are there. They all have an expiration date. Everybody. Everyone will get over it in time. Just win. When you win, it solves everything.
He is Jim Bowden, at Jim Bowden GM on Twitter.
Can I say one thing, Jim? You talked about Dan Duquette needing to, grow up and with the analytics and have the people around him. I got to tell you that one of the things I appreciate about you so much is you didn't have your nose in the air about fantasy sports. That when your career changed, you have fully embraced, your work with the Fantasy Alarm and everything. But there's a lot of people in your position that would have really thumbed their noses at fantasy. And I think you were very smart to do it, and it just shows a really neat side of you, Jim.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I will say this about fantasy. One of the things that was always fun in clubhouses is how much the players are into fantasy football. Every single club,
Jack
every
Peterson
single player. I mean, it's incredible. It really is. It is huge, and we had a nice little Tommy Pham, Jack Peterson moment last week over it. But this is huge.
Yeah.
And the number of reality GMs that are in leagues together for football, they don't want it to be public, and we understand why, because people don't have. But it's also important to understand the difference between reality and fantasy, and it allows a lot more people to get involved and love baseball even more.
I agree.
When you follow players at this level. So I love baseball, period. I love it at every level, and whether it be reality, fantasy, or betting, which is now obviously big in the sport. I think it's all great and all fun to follow.
The Athletic, Sirius XM, and of course CBS Sports HQ. Jim Bowden, thank you so much.
Thank you,
given
Jim.
of your time today. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Stuff, man. Really great stuff from Jim Bowden this morning here on GCR. Again, it was before we knew about the lawsuit, and there's great irony as Stan and Jim just sort of kind of both addressed that there were maybe some problems that were impacting the Orioles' ability to spend money.
By the way, I was in no way, shape, or form sort of predicting that was about to blow off
that there was something that kind of presented a problem, and we know a little bit more about what that problem might be now. 24 hours later, but a lot of great stuff in there. I mean, like he's predicting Gunnar Henderson to be he has become an out as these guys go. I don't know that any of them have become a better personality. Now that doesn't mean he doesn't get things wrong at times. If you do this, if this is what you do for a living, you're gonna get things wrong.
You're not gonna be right all the time.
He's predicting Gunnar Henderson will be a batting champion in Major League. That's a hell of a bold prediction to make. Yeah. Gunnar Henderson might be a hell of a baseball player and just never win a batting championship, right?
You know, one of the smartest things he did was when I asked him about Henderson and Mayo.
Yeah, he said
he could have BS'd around Mayo. Oh, he's got tremendous power.
Yep.
He hadn't seen him in a couple years.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Yep. I'm not well versed enough to feel comfortable talking to you about Kobe Mayo.
He will now.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
He'll go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I'll probably talk about it on his show.
Right.
You know, right? Hey, you know what? I wanted to talk about this Kobe Mayo fellow. Great stuff. Really great stuff with Jim Bowden. All right. We got one more break to get to, and then we're going to wrap up with a tidbit and tubular. You're going to stick around and finish up the show?
I'm going to try to.
All right. Very good. Stan's battling for us. Appreciate it. Yeah, right? He's been through the ringer today. Yeah, I haven't even asked you, but you have any thoughts about, like, Live Golf and the Saudi Arabian thing? Like, you have any thoughts on...
You know, it's funny. We did that one more thing about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was 3 weeks ago, where I told the story about the Mexican
Baseball League.
Baseball League that I had kind of buried in my head for 40 years, and I went back and read up on it, and it's funny that's come to pass now with the PGA suspending these players.
They're saying they're drawing a hard line, and we'll see. It's gonna end up in court for sure. There's no doubt. And at the end of the day, I'll never be okay. There'll never be a day where I say, yeah, you know what? They just wanted to get their money. That's all right. I will always come back to, No, this is shameful. Like, this is this is the Saudi Arabian government.
Right.
This is not okay. You'll never get, no matter how much, well, they just want to play golf and make money. And
Right.
No. That day will never come.
Literally blood money.
100%. All right, one more tidbit, two-bit of wind down for the week. Stan the Fan is here. It is Glenn Clark Radio.
Are you ready, soccer fans? This summer, the English Premier League returns to Baltimore. Arsenal, Everton, square off in the Charm City match, July 16th, under the lights at M&T Bank Stadium, home of the Baltimore Ravens. This is your only opportunity to take in a Premier League match this summer in the Mid-Atlantic region. Individual and group tickets are on sale at BaltimoreRavens.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles catcher Adley Rutschman, diving into where his passion for baseball and for catching comes from and how he uses that passion to elevate those around him in the Orioles organization. Also inside, Bo Smolka takes a look at how the Ravens' 2021 draft picks can make progress in year 2, and Glenn Clark offers a very unique tribute to former rival Mike Krzyzewski that all Maryland fans can appreciate. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Hey, B. More. The Orioles 2022 Birdland Summer Music Series presented by Miller Lite kicks off Friday, June 17th with Flo Rida. After the O's take on the Tampa Bay Rays, stay for the post-game concert and watch Flo Rida perform live from the infield. The concert is free to all fans who attend the game, with the option to add special on-field access. With hit singles like My House and his latest single, Wait, what better way to watch Flo Rida perform live at Camden Yards on June 17th? Buy tickets now at Orioles.com/music.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook Assistant GM Leon Twyman and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and offer you a few winners. And every other Thursday at 11:40, tune in for Weekend at Bookies as Andrew Stecca and Alloy Sports' Brad Kronthal help make you some money for the weekend. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday and Weekend at Bookies every other Thursday. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Baseball is back, and so is the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill. Start with the opener, flash-fried pork belly with our popular Korean No. 2 sauce, and take a bite out of the Crunch Burger, topped with home run sauce, white American cheese, and house-made chips. It also features irresistible options like a baseball-cut sirloin with blue cheese, grilled shrimp with garlic butter, and a strawberry salmon salad. And then there's the closer, the Cracker Jack Sundae with a waffle, ice cream, and Cracker Jack. This menu will be gone at your neighborhood Glory Days Grill. GloryDaysGrill.com to find out more. Great food, good sports.
Don't forget that full episodes of the show are available for free on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. But warning, you get what you pay for. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
Today's show also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Make the most out of every day in a Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models, a RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today. Stan the Fan has been in studio with us. He's going to hang out with us a couple times. Make this sort of a Friday thing for June, and then we'll see where we are after we make the move and everything changes.
Maybe I'll go to Thursdays in July.
In the new Press Box world, in the new place. I mentioned your shows this week, but I know you got Jeff Idelson coming on Monday night.
Monday night, Jean Fruth, female photographer, very well known in the baseball industry. They've written a book. She's actually written the book. Jeff has done the foreword to the book. Johnny Bench and and Jim Tomei have written.
I've heard of them.
Like epilogues.
Of course,
or
Orioles
something.
legend Jim Tomei. Yeah.
Yeah, Oriole legend and personal friend of Ross Grimsley.
Is
Johnny
that
Bench?
Oh, yeah. That actually, I was like, wait, Jim Tomei, really?
Yeah, he actually caught Johnny
Yeah,
Bench caught Ross.
100%.
Anyway, they've put together this book. It's like a coffee table book. It's called Grassroots Baseball on Route 66.
Okay.
And it details minor league parks and figures through the minor leagues and baseball's in the heartland of the country.
Cool.
The place that baseball has. It's interesting that I said to Matt Lund with Maroon PR, who's handling this, I said it's interesting that Johnny Bench caught Ross Grimsley because Ross is going to do the interview with me, and my fantasy baseball team is Route 66.
Well, how about that? Yeah. Look at all that. Look at all that. Well, that's cool. That'll be Monday night that you'll be able to catch that. The Orioles are away in Toronto next week, and Brandon Hyde has already said that, there's probably going to be a couple of guys that won't be able to make the trip with us because in Canada you have to be vaccinated in order to go play. That's quite frustrating that is still an issue that we are dealing with, but appears to be the reality of the circumstances. When the Birds get back next weekend, don't forget the Chick-fil-A has made this awesome offer to you. They want to hook you up with free food for a year. A year.
1 full year, calendar year.
So when the Orioles get back next weekend, what you need to do is get to the ballpark, find the life-size Chick-fil-A cow bobblehead. It's over in the kids.
C-O-W.
Not C-A-L. This is not a Cal Ripken bobblehead.
Not C-O-W-L.
No, not that either.
Like
by the way,
territory.
let's all be honest about that. That has been an issue for all of us over the years. At some point in our lives, Cal and cow started sounding the exact same here in Baltimore. It is an accent problem. It is a number of times we said the word problem. It is all of those things. The cow, the moo cow bobblehead. Go find it in the kids' corner. Take a picture with it. Follow @Orioles on Instagram. Then use the hashtag cow bobblehead sweepstakes when you post your picture. And if you do that, you could be one of 12 fans, 12, that win free Chick-fil-A for a year.
Now, does that mean you probably don't know all the buy
I don't. I don't have all the buy rules.
Like, do you think you could go once a day?
I would like to hope so, but I don't. Yeah. I don't know. Here's my gut. It's a certain amount for the year.
Yeah.
So however you use it, that's up to you. But it's a certain amount for the year. That's just my gut, knowing how some of these contests have been before. The contest ends August 27th, so you got time.
You think it could be $50,000?
I don't believe that they will give you a cash payout instead. Believe you're going to get the Chick-fil-A. And by the way, some of us might spend $50,000 a year at Chick-fil-A anyway. Don't forget to visit the Kids Corner at Oriole Park. Get that picture with the cow bobblehead. For all of the details, you know what? Maybe I can find the answer to this here. Orioles.com/chick-fill-a.
I'll tell you one thing. When I get a tray of those chicken tenders,
we used the nuggets. Yeah, nuggets, we used to.
You can't put them down.
We whenever we had guests in studio, I would like to splurge a little bit and have a Chick-fil-A catering tray waiting for them. And Stan at one point, legitimately, this is not a joke, Stan came into me at one point and said, "Could you not let me know when it's here?" Because I can't control myself. And I said, "Stan, I understand, my friend."
People ask me how I lost during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I lost like 30.
It was just because you weren't here when all the Chick-fil-A was here.
I just stopped. I didn't have the chicken tenders tray.
100%.
Chicken morsel tray.
All right, let's get a tidbit. Tidbit brought to you today by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Big events tomorrow night. UFC 275, Prohaska and Teixeira in the main event. Today,
Is that Mark Teixeira?
It's not Mark Teixeira. It's not Severna Park's own. It's Glover Teixeira, the Brazilian fighter.
Oh, of course.
Defending his belt tomorrow night against Yuri Prohaska. If you want to be there to watch the fight, avoid having to pay for the pay-per-view, and be able to bet, and there are so many great ways that you can bet on the fight. In fact, Griffin came up with a tremendous idea. If you follow Live Casino and Hotel on social media, you'll be finding out about that today. Griffin's idea for how you should bet the main event of UFC 275 tomorrow night. But if you want to do that, email events@sportssocialmd.com in order to guarantee reserve your spot for the fights.
He looks like he's probably a UFC fighter.
I have no idea.
Thank you, Stan.
I have no idea. I don't want to.
He's very wiry looking. You know.
I don't want to. I don't want
to be like a good grappler, wrestler.
Grappler,
that kind of
yeah.
yeah.
I don't want to anger him because if he is, then he might end up kicking my ass. It's quite a problem.
Griffin the Grappler.
Griffin the Grappler.
Be my good
Tonight, Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Same deal. Email events at sportssocialmd.com. And before the fights tomorrow night, you can watch the Belmont in the FanDuel Sportsbook. Unfortunately, you just can't bet on it in the FanDuel Sportsbook because of the laws in Maryland. You cannot bet on the races anywhere but the tracks. So
I had a picture come up on my Facebook the other day. It was 7 years ago, like 4 days ago. 7 years ago that
American Pharaoh, won the Triple Crown.
Won the
right.
Triple
It's a
Crown.
great point.
And I was there. I had a picture. I took.
I don't remember you go. You went.
Yeah. Well,
Man,
my mother-in-law had gotten sick, and we went
Oh
to New
yeah,
York.
you know what? I do vaguely remember this now.
And there was
That's
like
right.
This opening on Saturday, and I said to
Well,
my
we're here,
wife,
yeah,
I
what the
said,
hell?
hey,
Right.
And I took the train out there, and
I'm
it was,
so
it
jealous.
Was, it was really
I'm
one of the
so
top
jealous.
things I ever saw.
Oh, I'm so insane. I went the year before.
Yeah.
Because my wife and I got married in 2014, and we were going to miss both the Derby and. So I used to do my show on the old station that doesn't exist anymore. I used to do that from the Derby every year.
Okay.
And then we, of course, would always go to Preakness every year. And that year, just the way that it kind of worked out, we weren't going to be able to go. So because we were getting married and then our honeymoon. So we agreed that would be the year that we would go to Belmont. It'd be the first time we would ever go. And I'm trying to remember because it was a year where California Chrome had won the Derby and Preakness and was going for the Triple Crown. And it was.
See, I knew not to go that.
It was, yeah. You knew that was a terrible year to go.
I talked to Griffin.
Right, and he said, "Don't feel it.
Go next year."
As no one will remember, the winner of the Belmont that year was Tonalist, including myself, and I was there, and I have no recollection. I just remember it was this joyous. I've never felt anything like it. The day was electric. It was incredible.
You were going to see a Triple
Crown. And the moment down the backstretch that everyone realized California Chrome was not going to be. It was all of a sudden anger. It got dark. Like the crowd took a turn that day, and everybody realized, oh my God, we've been standing in the heat for 10 hours. We're all dripping in sweat. We're packed because at the Belmont, as you know, there's no infield. There's nowhere to go.
Right.
Like you're all just packed on top of each other. Getting out sucks. There's no easy way to get.
I got out so fast after.
Really?
Seriously, I saw the horse win, but I wasn't hanging around. I said, "What do I care to see that?"
Right.
I was on that train back to New York, like in 2 minutes.
Man, it was
crowded.
Yeah, it was a rough day for your boy. Anyway, that's my story. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how we got there.
To it.
Belmont
Go
this
ahead,
weekend.
tidbit. Yeah.
You kind of stole my tidbit. It was going to be who won the 2013.
It was
Belmont.
2014. Nice try. Nice.
The one that you were at. That was going to be.
No, I was at the 2014.
Oh, you were.
He was at 2015, which was American
2015.
Pharaoh.
Okay.
I was at 2014, which was Tonal. Of course, I would have known it was Tonalist.
Yeah.
I would have definitely known that.
So
I have no idea who won the 2013 Belmont. Couldn't possibly tell you that.
So the Orioles did actually play a game last night.
We didn't really talk about it.
mention
There were other things going on.
Bobby Witt Jr. stole 2 bases last night, and I was going to say he won the first matchup between the top 2 picks of 2019, but Adley Rutschman was left out of the lineup.
Well,
so
but he did get into the game.
He
and
did get
my
into the game
God,
later.
I was so. This is after the thing. I had flipped back over because I was also watching the hockey last night. The hockey was really good. The Rangers took a 3-2. The Lightning took a 3-2 series lead. Adley Rutschman came up with 2 runners on. The Orioles down by 3 as a pinch hitter, and I was like, "Oh my God, this would be so." How electric would this be for him to get his first home? Flew out to left field. Bummer.
The Lightning, by the way, not to interrupt your Tubular Tuesday, but tubular.
This is just tidbit. This is just tidbit. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's all right.
I get
You're
the
good.
bits.
That's fine.
But the Lightning presented you with one of the rare opportunities to bet.
Brother,
much better team.
I own a 12-1 ticket for the Lightning to win the Stanley Cup from before the playoffs began.
I just meant this series. I wonder what they were when they were down 2-0.
Oh, when they were down 2-0, yeah. I mean,
because they were so much better than the Rangers.
Definitely better than the Rangers, but that was what made no sense. This is one of the few that I'm very proud of. When the playoffs began, we do all these videos that you see on Live Casino's social pages, and one of the first things I said is the the Lightning played well down the stretch in the regular season. I get it. They were kind of confusing earlier in the year, but they were playing really well in March going into the playoffs, and they were literally the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. I get them not being favorites, but that number should have been more like 6 or 7 to 1, not 12 to 1. I got a ticket them at 12 to 1. I am one game away from being able to hedge that to guarantee that I'm a winner.
Right.
I am very pleased with how things have gone. Now, I need them to finish the job. I don't want to start, getting too excited. They got to finish the job. And they've won 2. This is now twice in this series, Game 3 and Game 5, where they scored with less than 2 minutes. The game-winning goal, they scored with less than 2 minutes left in the third period.
Great hockey going on. So hopefully tonight, it's going to be the first matchup between the first full game we see both players play. Bobby Witt stole 2 bases. That got me thinking about, exciting rookies, and stolen bases always bring excitement to me at least.
Okay.
And Julio Rodriguez, another rookie who actually leads the majors this season with 17 steals. So he is chasing the rookie record of steals in a season held by Vince Coleman. Do you know how many steals he had that in? That would be 1985.
Over 100?
This isn't the full tidbit. This is
over
just kind of set up. Yeah, it's over 100.
103?
110.
Jesus.
And he clears the next closest by about by almost 40 bases. So who are the next 7 rookies that would on that list of steals by a rookie?
No way I'm doing this.
Ricky Henderson?
Ricky Henderson. Nope, not his rookie year.
Wow.
Billy Hamilton.
There you go. He had 56 in 2014.
Barry Bonds.
No, not.
I like that. That was a good guess.
Not here as a rookie. He's not in the top 20.
Tim Anderson.
Tim Henderson.
Anderson.
Oh, Anderson. No, not Tim Anderson.
Okay.
This isn't going to go well. This is not. This is going to be a bloodbath.
There's a couple of really tough
Billy
ones.
Henderson. How about Christian Yelich?
Nope, not Yelich. Not sure how many he had his rookie year.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of I'm Lou Brock.
Lou Brock? No, not
Maury Wills.
No.
They weren't great their first year.
No. You had to have played a ton of games as well.
Yeah. Vada Pinson.
No. Not
Frank Robinson.
All right.
No.
How about you start giving us something to work with here?
Okay.
Ichiro.
So there you go. Ichiro is number 8.
That makes
56.
a lot of sense.
He was the last one.
Okay, but he's on the list.
Yes,
Settle down.
So you got Billy Hamilton, Ichiro.
Guy over here. I get one right, and he's like, yeah, but it's barely right. I'm getting my ass kicked. How about Kenny Lofton?
There you go. Kenny Lofton, 66. He is 4th.
Wow.
For stolen bases.
Craig Biggio.
Biggio not on here.
I was hot.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep going. All right, give me something.
Let's see. Chuck Carr.
No, I wanted you to give me something. You don't know who these people are,
Yeah,
so you can't give me a hint on
better
Chuck
than
Carr.
I do know.
us the
All right,
names.
let's see.
Yeah, right. I want a hint, and then maybe we could get there.
A former Expo.
Tim Raines.
There you go. Tim Raines
I
is
guess
number 3.
that would have been a good guess to start with. We probably should have.
Tim Raines
that
had
one out
71.
there. Yeah. Anything
And
else?
a former Philly and
Jimmy Rollins.
No, not Jimmy. Jimmy Rollins had not in the top 8, but he did have 46 in 2001.
When time frame was?
1980s.
1980s.
Philadelphia Philly from the 1980s.
Dykstra. Lenny Dykstra.
No.
How about
And
Abreu?
Oh, he was with the
No,
Mets
not
first,
Abreu.
yeah.
And then
In the 80s.
and then a pirate from the 90s, late 90s.
Pirate from the late 90s, Philly from the 80s.
My memory bank
Yeah,
is clogged up.
Juan Samuel.
Samuel. Yeah.
Griffin.
Yeah.
That's not good.
He had 72, second all-time by a rookie.
Okay.
And who was the other?
Tony Womack.
Tony Womack.
Wow.
All right.
1997, he
We
had
got to lock some of these things
60
up.
stolen bases for the Pirates.
Juan Samuel and Tony Womack.
Those are their names.
Well, yeah, but they're not actual.
You knew who I was talking about.
Okay, thank you, Griffin. We got to step up a little bit. All right, Tubular is brought to you today by who is this brought to you by? This is brought to you by Glory Days Grill. One more week for the spring seasonal menu at Glory Days Grill with the strawberry salmon salad, as well as the baseball cut sirloin, the Cracker Jack sundae, the flash fried pork belly with the Korean No. 2 sauce. They call it the opener. Last chance. Get there this weekend. GloryDaysGrill.com to get your order in. Some highlights for this weekend. Orioles-Royals continues. 4-game set throughout the weekend. Tonight 8 o'clock on Masson, Bruce Zimmerman, and Jonathan Heasley. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, Tyler Wells and Daniel Lynch. Sunday at 2 o'clock, Dean Kramer and Brad Keller. All those games are on Masson. Game 4, as I mentioned, tonight at 9 on ABC for the Warriors and Celtics. Game 5 is not until Monday, so that's the only game this weekend. Tomorrow night for Game 6 between the Rangers and Lightning, 8 o'clock on ESPN. The Belmont is tomorrow on NBC. Coverage gets underway around 5 o'clock. And I think the race is at just after 6, if I remember correctly. I don't think it's quite as late as the Preakness is, but I'll double-check on that for the race itself. Not that anybody is all that concerned. Everything else, go to glennclarkradio.com. You can find about it there. It's not a big weekend necessarily. Non-sports-wise, anything that jumps off the page?
On Netflix, the 6th and final season of Peaky Blinders comes out today.
Oh, I didn't know that. I
didn't know that either.
About that. I love Peaky Blinders.
The Buzz Lightyear movie.
But what's her face passed away? The mom.
Yes,
the actress that played
they
the mom.
said they're going to address that somehow. So.
She was wonderful. Oh, she was so great.
I got a good Australian series, one season.
What is it?
It stars Thomas Jane. Remember him?
I'm familiar. Yeah,
played Mickey Mantle.
100%.
And Hung, the HBO series. Troppo.
Troppo. Okay, I'll take a look. All right,
Australian.
Polly from Peaky Blinders, the actress who played her, passed away, and she kicked ass, man. She was so great. So I'm bummed about that, but I'm excited about the season.
It's called Dirty Daddy on Netflix, a Bob Saget tribute.
Oh, okay.
It's out on
All
Netflix
right.
today. Yeah.
All
John
right.
Stamos, Jim Carrey, Chris Rock, Jeff Ross, and others pay tribute to Bob Saget.
I'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
I did finally watch the Norm thing, where he recorded a comedy special, but it's just him in front of a computer before he died. And it's very weird because he's still very funny, but there's no crowd, there's no reaction. And he literally answers his phone halfway through it. It's a whole. I enjoyed it. It was very good.
Very funny guy.
Everything else, glennclarkradio.com.
One last thing, Barry season 3 finale on HBO.
Right. Very good.
Sunday night at 10.
All right, Stan the Fan, thank you for coming in and joining us.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next Friday.
All right.
Thanks as well to Jim Bowden. Thanks all to Sam Dykstra. We'll get that up in the greatest hits section of the tab at glennclarkradio.com. Tomorrow morning, the bat around 10 to noon. Stan will be checking in with the boys, talking some baseball, as Paul and Zach do it every Saturday from 10 to noon. Rita and I, 1 to 4 on Sunday on 105.7 The Fan. Join us then. Thanks, everybody at Pressbox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, the Charm City Match, Grade 8's Memorabilia, the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com, the Costas Inn. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Thanks to Ryan at RexSpecs Ryan. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok now at Glenn Clark Radio. Yeah, we're doing that. Have a great weekend. Go Birds. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks too.